To order the WPCA and regular town council meeting of North Branford, Connecticut to order. It is Tuesday, May 20th, and it is 6:35. Please join me in a salute to the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call.
Mayor Angeloni.
Here.
Deputy Mayor McMillan.
Present.
Councilor Abelson.
Here.
Councilor Diamond.
Here.
Councilor Goes.
Here.
Councilor Miller.
Here.
Councilor Palladino.
Here.
And Councilor Zampano.
Here.
Okay, next item, do I hear an approval for the minutes of the April 22nd, 2025 special WPCA and Town Council meeting?
You're here. Second.
Motion has been made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, second by Councilor Abelson. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Now into the WPCA agenda. First item is correspondence, citizen statements regarding WPCA. Any comments? Okay, seeing none, going on to unfinished business. There is none listed. New business, sewer flows from Lake Gillard Water Treatment Plant.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chris Holden is on vacation, so the part of Chris Holden will be played tonight by Rory Burke.
Okay.
Good evening, everybody. You should have a memo in your packets from the town engineer. The Regional Water Authority is requesting an amendment to the existing agreement. As I'm sure you're aware, they've been making upgrades to their treatment facility on Foxen Road. The result of that is going to be increased efficiency, meaning lower output into the sewer system. So the amendment that they're requesting would reduce the average daily flow, and there would be a corresponding reduction in the fee that they pay that's based in the agreement, the formula for the payment.
Okay, so do we know what the reduction has been so far in their flow rate? I mean, I know I read it and it said that they've seen reductions, but did they provide any, what those numbers actually are? Or are we just taking their word that it is? I mean, I saw the letter from the the Water Authority in regards to it. So do we have to take action on this tonight?
No, and Christian is here for the June meeting if you'd love to wait.
I would, since we just got this, I mean, it was in our packet and there's been no discussion on it. I think it would be a good idea if we tabled it and wait until. So do I have a motion to table this?
Motion table. Second.
Motion has been made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, second by Councilor Miller. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstained? This will be tabled until the June meeting. Citizen statements and petitions regarding WPCA. Okay, seeing none, we are going to move on into the regular town council meeting. First is community events and presentations. Charles Larkins, honor them with a flag ceremony.
Good evening. I'm here again representing the North Branford Women's Club. They're having their annual Honor Them with a Flag event, and I appreciate all the help we've gotten in the past and look forward to having a good ceremony this year. Again, you're all invited to come to the ceremony, and if you'd love to speak during the ceremony, please let me know. I'll be emceeing again, so you can just show up and we'll let you have the mic and you can have your piece, say your piece.
Is it on June 14th?
No, it's going to be held the Thursday before. We didn't want to try to push the weekend in case school's out and plans and stuff. So it'll Thursday the 12th at 6:30.
6/12, okay.
All right?
And it's here at Town Hall.
Yes, right in front of the town hall. There is no rain date. If it rains, There is no rain date. It gets canceled and that's it. But the flags will go up, actually go up the Sunday before. And I'd appreciate, again, this year, any help and assistance, sound system, chairs, use of the property. That's wonderful. Thank you. I just can't say enough. It's been good for a number of years now, and we're looking forward to another successful year.
Okay.
I'm
Any
sorry,
questions?
what time is it on the 12th? What time?
6:30.
6:30.
6:30, June 12th. It's a Thursday night.
Okay. Thank
Any
you.
other questions?
Yeah, thank you, Charlie.
Thank you.
The next item is Henry Zekin dedication plaque on the Veterans POW Monument.
Hi, I'm Henry Zekin. I'm from Branford. I was originally from North Branford. Moved out. This is Mr. Sam. He's the Eagle Scout. And that with the Vietnam veteran stone in. So my wife, who unfortunately is in Italy, wanted, she couldn't make it.
Unfortunately.
So what she wanted to do was put a small plaque on the thing, just so that they know that my son Sam put the project up when he was an Eagle Scout. So
Okay.
we noticed that they put a plaque on it for Creamer and a missing in action.
Mhm.
So they probably put this on the back, just so they would know who put the thing up.
Okay, and so is there, who would be in charge of ordering the plaque and putting it on?
We would just get it.
You would,
Yeah,
okay,
we get it, and then, I don't know if it would check to see if it would just even be glued on to the stone.
okay,
Or something like
okay.
that. And you should, I think, you had something there which shows the size that my wife wanted to put up. I think it was like maybe 3 by 6.
Yeah, let me see if there is information in our packet here. Yes, it's on page 46 of our packet. Yep. Okay, so actually there is, so while you're still here, there's an agenda item later on in our agenda
I saw
to
that.
approve this.
Uh-huh.
But if I can have a motion from someone that we can just move item 13B.
Yeah, I'll make a motion, item 13 be moved to,
I'll second.
we're going to put it here to
7C.
7C. Second.
Okay, the motion has been made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Diamond to move item 13B. Right? Yes,
Yes.
B. Okay. Does anyone have any questions for them while they're here?
I think it's great you did that project. Thank you, because Vietnam vet and Jimmy was his friend, so I like seeing that.
Yeah, I am too.
Are you? Thank you for your service, sir. Welcome home.
All set. Any other questions?
No,
We're good?
you're good?
Okay, thank you all.
Okay. All right, so we are now going to, oh wait, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Okay. So now we will take action on item 13B is
Is there a motion? There's one in there, yeah. For the read.
Make a motion that the North Branford Town Council authorizes the addition of a small plaque by the Zekin family to the town's Vietnam Veterans Memorial indicating it was an Eagle Scout project of Salvatore Zekin in 1996.
Second that.
Motion was made by Councilor Palladino, seconded by Deputy Mayor McMillan. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. You are free to do the plaque and have it installed.
Okay, thanks.
You're
Thank you very
welcome.
much.
Thank you. Okay. Now we are on to reports of committees, boards, and commissions. First one is economic development.
I did attend the meeting, but I have nothing to report.
Okay. Park and Recreation, the meeting for this month has been canceled at this time due to the special council meeting next week and has not been rescheduled at this time. Police Commission?
The Police Commission meeting for May was canceled.
Okay. Fire Commission?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we met May 1st. It was actually a very quick meeting. Basically, I just wanted to recognize it's EMS week. Yes? Yeah. EMS week celebration for our emergency management. And I would also like to just read the department calls for the month of April. So this is all the calls that our fire department, which is both North Branford and Northford, has called. So for the month of April, there were 5 fire calls. There were 142 emergency medical calls. There were 11 motor vehicle accidents. There were 3 hazardous conditions calls. There were 10 public service and good intent calls. There were 7 residential fire alarm calls. There were 2 commercial fire alarm calls, and there were 3 mutual aid calls. So the total calls for the month of April were 183. The total calls for 2025 have now been 739 calls. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Planning and zoning?
They met on Thursday last week. Nothing unusual. Just
Okay.
business as usual.
Okay. Finance Subcommittee. Finance Subcommittee met last week. There are several items on our agenda tonight. We reviewed some RFPs. One was for the bond advisor, and the other is the financial advisor?
Bond counsel.
Or bond counsel. So we have the bond advisor on our agenda for tonight. We also did discuss what was the night of the referendum, so the results weren't in yet, but during our meeting, we found out that the town was very successful in coming out, and we had reached the 15% on the referendum, so we knew that we would have to be adjusting the budget. And so that's what we will start doing tonight, is discussing that on there. Our next meeting will be in June, so it'll be the 2nd, the 10th, June 10th. Which we might have to change because I know that is high school graduation that night. So, so we'll see once if we'll just do a special meeting or just forego it. But so that's it. That's all that I have on finance right now. Next is public safety.
Thanks to the town manager, we finally are going to have a meeting on May 29th at 10 a.m. with all of the parties involved, including the vendors and the members of the Public Safety Committee, and hopefully our fire chief, our police chief, and we're finally going to try to iron everything out. So I have to thank Mike for it's been a monumental task to get all those vendors.
There's a lot of people to get
Yeah,
involved.
a lot of
Be an
clocks to
important
strike at
meeting.
once, yeah.
Okay. All right. When is that, May 29th?
May 29th, but it's at 10 a.m. at the police meeting room.
Okay. Okay. CIWWA.
Next meeting is next Wednesday, the 28th.
Okay. And Blueprint.
No meeting.
Okay. Town managers report.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of the council. The town-wide budget referendum on the town council's recommended budget was held on Tuesday, May 13th. 1,901 voters turned out, or 20.1%. 1,619 voters rejected the budget because it was too high. 69 opposed the budget because it was too low, and 143 voted to accept the budget. 15% of registered voters, or 1,417, were needed for the results to be binding. Therefore, the results of this budget referendum are binding, and the council's recommended budget returns to the council this evening. Under the town's charter, the council has until June 1st, 2025 to pass a new budget. Also, under our charter, there is only the one referendum we just conducted, and there are no further referendums following council action on the budget. The council's final action will be binding. I do want to thank our registrars, volunteers, and town clerk's office at all of our elections, referendums, and primaries. They work to make sure they're smooth and accurate, and in the process of supporting our local democracy, so thanks goes out to them. And I'd also like to note that this is the first use of the new tabulators we received from the state, and there are no issues to report, which is positive as we look forward to the coming local elections. The town fiber project is in progress. The fiber is currently being pulled from NBIS to STW. This should be completed by May 27th. Inside splicing of the fiber is begun at NBIS. Splicing needs to be done at the PD, Auger House, and STW, which is to be scheduled. The internal network installation will follow, and the target date for completion is prior to June 30th. This year, the North Branford Memorial Day Parade will take place on the North Branford side of town on Monday, May 26th. Step-off is 10 a.m. Gina Cox and Kathy Poston, in conjunction with our Veterans Service Commission, have been hard at work, and we've conducted some planning meetings already with the police, public safety, and public works. We're excited to have selected Kathy Poston as this year's Grand Marshal, and we will be receiving a flyover for this event of an F-130 provided by the 103rd Air Wing of the Connecticut Air National Guard. So I hope residents will come out and join us for this important parade and ceremony honoring those who served and sacrificed answering our nation's call. I want to take a moment to recognize National Police Week and observe that our great folks at the North Branford Police Department and the work that they do. National Police Week was last week. Also, as Councilor Abelson mentioned, National EMS Week is this week, and it's set aside to recognize our life-saving emergency medical personnel. Thanks go to the understanding professionals who serve our town with compassion and dedication and provide a lifeline to our residents when they are in most jeopardy. This week also is National Public Works Week. This week marks a time that we ask that everyone please join in recognizing the tremendous efforts of our fine professionals in the North Branford Public Works Department. They perform like first responders through emergencies and events, demonstrating flexibility, innovation, and compassion as they undertake their roles on behalf of North Branford taxpayers, and our thanks go to them for everything they do. The council may remember a few months back when Bailey Salemi came before you to ask permission to do her Eagle Scout project by installing an antique hay rake at the front of the Reynolds Beers House. That project is now done. It looks great. If you have a chance to stop by and check it out, I recommend it. Parks and Recreation held a very successful Touch a Truck event last Saturday at STW Community Center, and we'll be holding a Slamma Jamma basketball camp from June 16th to the 20th for grades 3 to 8 at Jerome Harrison School. Congratulations to Park and Rec. They got me to say the word Slamma Jamma. Park and Rec will also be holding a safe boating and personal watercraft class on May 31st and June 7th at the STW Gym, $20 for residents, $25 for non-residents. And they'll also be sponsoring a pet health and wellness clinic on June 13th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Stanley T. For details on these and other programs and to register, you can visit northbranfordct.myrec.com. The libraries are holding a summer reading kickoff on June 7th, 1 to 3:30 at the Atwater Library. There will be music, entertainment, crafts, and summer reading signups. Registration is not necessary. Just a reminder that I put out a monthly newsletter by email that goes out on the fourth Friday of every month. The next one will be this Friday, May 23rd. The newsletter contains news and announcements from the town. It's a great way to keep up with what we have happening in town. There's a sign-up form on the front page of my page on the town website to receive the newsletter. And also, as a reminder, we have town emergency notifications available through Civic Ready that residents can sign up for. You can text North Branford, no spaces, to 38276 to get emergency alerts and community notifications. You can also sign up online at northbranfordct.gov/alerts or call 475-655-0400 to sign up via phone. Notifications go out via text, email, and phone call. That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Next is Town Manager's Report, the Permanent Project Building Committee.
Thank you. On the North Branford Police Department, the dampers have been installed. Data is currently being gathered on the HVAC system balance, and warranty and punch items are ongoing. North Branford High School, the punch list and closeout is ongoing, and the glass review is complete. Replacements are scheduled to take place over the summer. North Branford Intermediate School, a majority of the base project is complete. Siding replacement is ongoing. Sidewalks are being reviewed for replacement. STW project, the revised list of possible projects remains under review. Stanley T. Williams Community Center Pavilion, the slab and apron have been installed. We're awaiting railing and stair completion. Department of Public Works building, the bid has been opened and a recommended award will be forthcoming to the council. Edward Smith Library HVAC, PPBC is still reviewing options and recommendations, and the steep grant awards have been additionally delayed, and I'm now told we may not get notification until the state budget is settled. As you remember, we were supposed to be notified. First it was early April, then late April, and now probably have to wait until after the budget.
Okay. Which is generally the beginning of
Usually the
June?
first week in June.
Okay.
But depending on who you talk to about the optimism of that actually happening and not going to a special session, I guess we'll just have to see.
Okay.
The committee did not meet last night, and they will not meet next Monday, so in consideration of the Memorial Day holiday, so the next time they'll meet is June 2nd.
All right.
That concludes my report.
Okay, thank you. Okay, on to citizen statements, petitions, and correspondence. Any citizen statements? Yep.
Annette Scatino, 63 Glenwood Road. As far as the calls, the fire calls for the year so far,
Yep.
do you have a breakdown by company as to?
No, but
I can get some.
we can get it for you, but next month,
Okay.
I will have a breakdown by company as far as.
Yeah, I was just curious, because we do have the 3 companies,
Well, there are 4.
or 4, and I was just wondering,
Absolutely.
Who gets the
Next
most
month, when
calls?
I read them, I will get them, I will read
great,
them.
thank you.
Any other citizen statements? Okay, on to resignations and appointments. Seeing none, on to unfinished business. First item is the proposed North Branford High School Athletics Storage Building. There is a email in our agenda packet in regards to this. And it's from the superintendent of schools. And he is requesting that the town council approve this prior to the board approving it. It's on the board's agenda for Thursday night of this week to move this project over to the town side. But unfortunately, at this point in time, we don't have any money budgeted in our budget. It could come out of the project, the high school project, but we don't know what the status of that, like where we are, how much is in contingency, since they have not met, they didn't meet this week, they're not meeting next week. So we can just, it's been on our agenda since July of last year, so we can just keep it on there until we see what the amount of money is on there, and then we can just go forward. So do I have a motion to table until June?
Motion to table.
Second.
Motion was made by Counselor Abelson, seconded by Counselor Zampano. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. And the next item is approval of the bid specs for the storage shed. That'll just stay on there. We can't do that until the project is approved at that point. On to 13, new business discussion and action. First item is fiscal 25-26 budget. Receipt of the fiscal year 25-26 budget following rejection at the annual budget referendum. So this is our opportunity to start talking about the budget and possible cuts, and I believe the town manager has some items.
I do. There's a memo in everyone's folder.
Oh, here it is, yep.
And the council had asked for me to go back to departments and find some additional cost savings. So I'll just briefly go through some of the items that are on this memo for possible reduction. Those include, under animal control, $16,016 savings from the renegotiation of the animal control contract. This item's actually on your agenda later on as well. Refuse collection, I was asked to explore the idea of reduction of bulk pickup to one time per year. And in discussion with John's Refuse, that would be a $15,000 savings. From engineering, if they remove the color plotter from their engineering and planning department they've planned, that's $3,500. Department of Public Works, $20,000 from brush grinding, $3,000 from end anchors, $2,000 from guardrail repairs, and $5,000 from snowplow contractors. That's $30,000 total from that department. Parks and Recreation is offering up a $4,800 reduction in the porta potty locations. Essentially, instead of having 2 at the parks, they would cut it back to 1 that's handicapped accessible. Still have coverage there, but we reduce the number that are out at all the parks. And they've also suggested a potential increase in revenue from membership fees being increased from $150 a year to adding $30 a year to $180 a year, which could result in $10,900. So that's a total of $14,800 being proposed there. Library, a $2,000 reduction in part-time and $8,000 reduction in library books for $10,000. Information and technology, an $8,000 reduction in Munis modules. These would essentially be modules that after we've been working with it, we've determined that we don't need them and we can do without them. And $3,600 in reduction in Munis PACE training. We originally have 9 days. We could scale that back to 5. So that's a total of $11,600. In social services, again, not a hugely budgeted department, so they've offered up $788 in cutting cable, business cards, and other contractual for Fed relocation program. Town clerk's office, $300 reduction in paper and land records, $100 shipping charges, and $350 professional development. Again, not a big budgeted department, so that's $840 there. Tax collector offered up a couple of items for $500. The assessor offered up some things for $820. Fire department offered up CIP funds for one of the Lucas devices for $19,925. And in human resources, $2,750 off of reducing the pre-employment medicals by 5 for camp counselors under age 18 and reduction in background checks cost by changing vendors. So that's a total of $126,539 to start with.
Okay. Thank our department heads for coming together and giving us ideas of where to cut, possible cuts that we can do. So I also have sent out an email to all council members and asked them to come to this meeting with ideas of where they propose cuts to be. For this council here and for the last 19 years, we have not had to do this, so this is new to us and to any other council prior to us. So we don't have any set dollar amount we're looking for. We're open to suggestions. As the town manager had published, we opened up a specific email address that town residents could send in their ideas of for possible cuts that we would look at on there, which we have in our packet here. And we also, Mike, can you read them into the, just so that it's public if they're all under, I think they're all under the 1,000-word limit.
Yes, they all are. I'd be happy to do that.
Okay.
First one is from Carol Dindersky. To whom it may concern, being a citizen of North Branford for 60 years, I love this town. However, I found out something over the last few months which I found very hard to believe, but I was actually told by people involved that it is actually happening. It seems that our Board of Education and the town of North Branford have in place a system where if you do not take the health benefits offered to you, and decide to take your spouse's benefits, then the town pays you out for your benefits. Where in the world is this legal or morally right? There is not another town in our state that actually pays you out for not taking the health benefits. I feel strongly that if this buyout was eliminated, then you would be amazed at how much more the town could come up with toward the pay down of our bonds for the new high school and the new Taj Mahal Police Department. Just a suggestion from a concerned citizen. By the way, thank you for all the hard work you do. Carol Dindersky. I think I should preface all these by saying just because they are coming out of my mouth doesn't mean that everything in the contents is actually accurate, because there is some, these are opinions of individuals and some of the information in there is actually not accurate. But next one, Joseph Dindersky. In this time of high energy, food, utility bills, combined with the high cost of just living in Connecticut, it is absurd to think the average resident can absorb such a huge property tax increase. This is an unusual time, and maybe the need for layoffs in all departments, including education and public safety, will be needed to reduce the budget. Some non-essential services could be cut, as well as capital improvement projects and big-ticket items. A few $100 increase is expected. A few $1,000 increase is not affordable. Thank you. Next one is from Deborah Kaplan. To whom it may concern, my husband and I have been Northford residents since 1991. We are both retired and living on a fixed income. Due to the recent revaluation, our property value was increased $122,000. We appealed the revaluation immediately, but were denied. Based on the current mill rate proposed by the town, our taxes will increase by $1,355.51. We believe that even though the mill rate was reduced in the current budget, it was not reduced enough. This tax increase is not sustainable for residents of North Branford. Regards, Deborah Kaplan. Next one is from Alexa Venegas. Dear Mayor Angeloni and board members, my husband and I bought our first home in North Branford in March of 2024. As soon as we began the house buying process, we knew we wanted to settle in North Branford for a variety of reasons. The engaging and close-knit community, the wonderful high-achieving school system, and picturesque landscape. Our experience has been nothing short of incredible. We love our neighborhood and supporting small businesses. We felt this will be our forever home. Unfortunately, with the newly proposed mill rate and our home's newly assessed value, we are very worried that our future in this beloved town. With the proposed rate, our taxes have more than doubled since the last fiscal year. With a baby on the way, we should not have to worry about our financial future in this manner. My husband also spoke to the tax assessor's office before buying our home, and they reassured us they would never double our taxes within one tax year. Unfortunately, this feels like the harsh reality. My husband and I have dreams of raising our child in this incredible community, but the high taxes make it difficult to make ends meet. Please adjust the rate to ensure your residents' financial security so they can enjoy the town for all the beauty it has to offer. Sincerely, Alexa and David Venegas. Next is from Bob Meager. I'm a North Branford citizen. I've lived here from 1966 through 1980 and again 1995 through today. I'm shocked that you have to ask for suggestions on how to deal with the current budget situation, but then I realized that perhaps working for a town, you have no idea what it is like in the real world. I've been working in the same manufacturing company since 1979. 1, annual raises are not automatic. This is not such a thing as cost of living increase. 2, insurances are very expensive. Each year the cost goes up, our contribution and our deductible. I have to pay the first $32.50 before the insurance company pays a dime. 3, fit to size. When times are tough, my company reduces staff. The work has to be divided between the employees who stay. 4, on the home front, we have to make cuts wherever possible. I dropped cable and our landline, cut back on dining out, vacations, put off repairs where possible, and run the same automobile. 5, close one of the libraries, sell off some of the properties we have. Did we really need such a large police station? When I voted, there were a lot of retired people in the line that simply cannot afford this increase. Short answer, cut back on expenses, no new hires. Thanks, Bob Meager. Next is Donna Meager. Saving suggestions. 1, no wage salary increases were possible. 2, no cost of living increase. 3, no overtime. 4, 10% headcount reduction of all staff. 5, no new hires. If a position opens, transfer from within. 6, I understand we cannot cut the BOE budget, freeze it at 2024 level. 7, no additional capital expenditures on police department for 2025. 8, no unnecessary travel to conferences, seminars, etc. 9, cut out fireworks at Corn Festival. 10, eliminate the Corn Festival. 11, close one of the 2 libraries in town. 12, cut back on health insurance by 1, increasing employee contribution, and 2, converting to a higher deductible plan. Thanks, Donna Meager. Next is Nicole Brzezicki. Town of North Branford Council, as a lifelong resident family of Northford, I ask you please make substantial cuts to the budget and also incentivize commercial and small business. My first and biggest cut suggestion is towards the police department. If they wanted a building that we cannot afford, cut positions. A force that big is not warranted based on their productivity. They don't do anything about the dirt bike situation. I only see patrol cars parked across the street from the police station, rarely on Route 80 and other high-speed, high-accident areas. Durham works under 2 state troopers. Maybe we should consider that. A second cut can be made to one of the libraries. We do not need both. And finally, bring business to Route 80 in the center of Northford. How can it hurt? Have you seen the state of both centers these days? They're dumpy. Start by finding the owner of the former IGA building for leaving it abandoned for 20-plus years. Incentivize businesses coming to our town and give tax breaks to those who fix up their current businesses. We just lost 2 pharmacies. We are losing TD Bank and Agway. We have nothing here. This will take some time, take some of the tax burden off of residents and bring people to our town. Next is from Linda Haleson. Hi, I don't know why below had no content. Oh, she tried to send an email twice, so that's what she's saying. So I'll retype what I sent. I already spoke at the town budget meeting, so I don't really have anything to say other than what I already stated, which is that a tax increase in the hundreds is reasonable. A tax increase of $1,500 or more in 1 year is not. It is going to force people on fixed incomes out of town, particularly seniors. Please look for opportunities to reduce the budget. I would start with 1 library, not 2, and seriously reconsider the purchase of another fire engine at this time. Aside from that, I sent comments in a separate email to Mike Downs regarding the need for longer-term strategy, which I do have and I can forward to the council. Thanks, Linda Haleson. Next is from Esther Kopelek. Good morning. My question is why Public Works spending time and resources mowing an extremely steep bank on Route 80 across from the old town hall, which was knocked down. To me, it looks like an accident waiting to happen to the guys mowing due to the steep incline. Why 4 people and 2 trucks and 2 mowers for this job, guaranteed with salary and insurance? It's a few $100 easy, not to mention wear and tear on the equipment. Why can't native wildflower mix be planted and let grow natural? No need, in my opinion, to mow and maintain that area. Maybe more areas should be looked at to cut maintenance mowing. Thanks for your time, Esther Koplik. Next is from Bernie Stepnowski. Esteemed Town Council, I'm a senior citizen and have lived in Northford since 1986. The proposed 27.84 mill rate coupled with the new revaluation yields an 8% increase in my real estate tax bill over last year's. That is unconscionable and unwarranted. How does the Town Council justify that? Connecticut is one of the most expensive states to live in already, and this just makes the situation worse. Regards, Bernie Stepnowski. Next is from Chris Citro. Town Council, the town of North Branford is a great place to live. With that said, almost 1/3 of the town is open space, which includes Lake Gallard and farmland. It's time to increase the tax base with commercial and mixed development. The old town hall property should have been developed a long time ago, and instead nothing is being done. That's just one example of many locations that are not being addressed. I have no problem with a new high school and police station, but the town cannot expect residents to make up the massive debt. The bottom line is the town needs to be developed without further delay. And the final one is from Robert Maroney. I do not have any specific ideas on what or how to cut the budget in town. However, I do have a broad suggestion. I've lived in town since 1983, raised both my sons here, and now retired after taking care of my disabled wife. I have to live within our means and prioritize our spending to make ends meet on our fixed income. Sure, there are many things we would like to have, but we can't. I feel the same idea should hold true for towns and local governments. You have a fixed income, you have to make do and prioritize your spending. While many people in this beautiful town love the open space, farmlands, and lack of business, we have to face facts. These things don't bring in tax revenue. Other towns have growing commercial and other businesses in their towns and pay towards the tax base. We have very little. We have Central Plaza, which when we moved here was booming, now it's mostly empty. Same with various strip malls in both Northford section as well as North Branford areas. Yes, the economy right now is cautious, but we need to get some growth in our tax revenue if we want new municipal and education buildings. Many folks in town are getting older, like my wife and I, and find it hard to pay for our health costs, groceries, as well as taxes for our new schools and just plain living in town. Yes, we need good schools, but good schools doesn't necessarily mean new schools. We need good public service structures such as police, public works, and fire, but again, that doesn't mean new. My suggestions are twofold. One, learn to live within our means as a town, fix up and renovate, and don't borrow for new with loans on the back of the elderly in town. Two, try to lure business into town instead of making people who pay taxes move away to another state, town or state because they can't afford to live here. Yes, the costs for everything have risen, duh. That means town employees cost more, fuel costs more, electricity to light the buildings, etc. Those things can't change, but the wants instead of the needs are the things to cut. Some people will be ticked off no matter what that is, but just like in your personal budgets, you can't have it all. Thank you for your time, Bob Maroney. That is all we received up to this afternoon.
Can I say something? Mike, thanks for reading that. That was probably the most rewarding 15 minutes I've had since I've been on the council, hearing that read. All of those messages from all of our citizens. And I agree with probably 95% of what they said. Thank you.
So in regards to what because we just saw these sitting here, so thank you, Mike, for reading them so everyone can hear. They will all be part of the record and go in the minutes and become part of our minutes. But just because we have some departments or most department heads here, I just want to address some of what we heard. So the first one was the suggestion of the police department and going to state troopers like Durham. And Chief Lovelace is here, and can you just address that and what the possibility would be of being able to do that?
Sure, I'm not going to opine on all the legal hurdles you'd have to go through, but I can tell you that the state police is already understaffed and they can't cover the areas that they have. On top of that, it's not free. So those towns that embark on that pay a very steep cost back to cover the cost to the state of Connecticut. So that's not a free service that just comes to any municipality that can't have their own police department. And if you remember a couple years back in the news, they raised the costs back, and you can go back and look at what it was costing those small towns to do that project. So is anything possible? Sure, anything's possible, but there's no free service out there with the state of Connecticut. So.
It would be monumentous to try to get it done.
It'd take years to really work all the things out.
And don't most of these towns also have part-time constables to make
To
up
offset the cost for the state police,
So
yeah.
you're, what are you really saving?
They still have buildings there that they have to maintain and facilities and that nature. It's not just.
And at the end of the day, can't the state police also tell us that, well, no, you already have a police department, we're not interested?
Yeah, they don't have to take it upon, so.
Because I know when I worked in East Haven and we were having some issues with everything that went down in federal investigations, our management at the time says, oh, we'll just get troopers to supplement us, and the call was made and they basically laughed in our face and said, no, we not doing that. And that was 15 years ago when they weren't understaffed like this, so it's not an automatic like that.
Yeah.
Question, I don't know if you can actually tell us, but because I just read the number of calls for the fire department, do you actually have a number of calls for the month?
I don't have this month's, but I could tell you yearly, we do anywhere between 17 and 20,000 at this
Calls.
point. Calls of service, yeah.
Total?
Yeah, but I can get you last month's numbers.
No, I
just
just
to-
want to make sure that everybody understands. Like,
If we had a meeting a week ago, I would have the number at the top of my head, but we didn't have the meeting, so.
But, I mean, what I was trying to point out is that how many calls we do in a month for the fire department.
I can tell you this,
How-
every call that the fire department was dispatched for, the police department's dispatched as well. So
Right,
it's
so
it's
that's
dual
how
service.
hard you guys work
Yeah.
and how many calls you do.
Yeah,
So
so-
just want to point that out.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So as long as you're up here, I
Sure.
just have another question that came to me from a resident also, and they had looked at the budget, and they looked at the police overtime account, which was $500,000, and asked, can't we schedule better? Do we, to reduce the $500,000, maybe we should, hire more police officers so we don't have overtime. So can you just address what really makes up that $500,000?
Sure, so part of that 500,000 is also our dispatch staff, so we're 24/7 operation. And what that accounts for is their personal days, the vacation days, the holiday pay, all their CBA, what they get through their CBA for working during those times. What's actually paid out in overtime is less than 20%, and that's for what we call, it shouldn't be called in there, I gotta change the wording, it says routine emergencies, but that's for your storms, that's for your fatal accidents, that's for your large investigations, that's for when you gotta fill shifts, for whatever the nature may be that comes throughout the year. So less than 20% is actually what is covered in police overtime expenditures on a staff of 26, 365, 24/7.
Okay.
And also the accountability bill made it a little bit more difficult now when it comes to RPOs.
Yeah.
Because now that demands us for overtime where you get an RPO and you got to see someone.
So an RPO is a risk protection order.
Oh, okay.
So that came in the accountability bill. So whenever we go for one of those calls of service, we are mandated by the state to fill out this paperwork. That goes to the courthouse, and then we're now mandated to go and sit at court for that hearing, which comes within 14 days. So that's,
And that's been happening a lot more than usual.
Yeah.
at least
And
10 to 12 officers a
also on
week.
top of that, because we deal with that a lot, with the accountability bill, the mandate of accreditation.
Yeah.
Which, again, is not free, it's man hours, it's a lot.
I mean, I could put a presentation for you for hours if you want to go down the rabbit hole, but that's,
Well, and I think that was helpful
Yeah.
to understand that that's an all-encompassing account, it's not just all overtime,
that-
and the majority of it
that less than
is-
20% also includes the dispatchers in that for the filling of
Right,
those vacancies.
so you're
it's-
less than $100,000 for actual overtime.
And also regarding to resident troopers, they're not a 24-hour operation either. They have a morning, some just have a morning and evening, that's it. So there's been times where something's happened over the line where we had to go there along with other towns.
It's routine, you have to go into Durham or other areas to assist for those reasons.
The other thing I would like to mention, and I know that when I was at the last police commission meeting, they're putting 163%, I remember hearing that number, effort into watching what's happening. That's why they're out on the roads, because, and, you see them parked to various places because of, we know in this state, there's a tremendous number of accidents occurring. You read about it in the paper almost every day, and I think this police department is making a real effort to try to prevent that by being out and about and catching people and watching people. So I
what
think
we,
that's important.
what we have in the cars also is what we call MDTs, or mobile data terminals, and the officers are actually doing the reports. So every time they go to a call, it's not just they're done with it and they walk away and they go to the next one or they go somewhere else. There's hours, in some cases days, of paperwork that goes along with it, forms, all these things that got to be uploaded into the system for the court process. So a lot of times when they're there, they're catching up on previous calls from what happened, transpired on their shift, so.
And sometimes you're certain areas for.
I know you don't like when you drive by and you see it, and they're actually doing things, you just don't see them in the car typing along, but.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of an obvious thing, you have to document the call. So people should recognize that there's only so many hours in a day, has to be done in those time periods. There's a police presence, and people complain a lot that there's an increase in people coming from out of town and stealing cars and going, without the police presence, that's going to increase for, even more so. So me personally would like to see, I like seeing them there, and I think it adds to, keeping people, at bay. That might do something they shouldn't do.
Yeah. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Appreciate your time.
And Madam Mayor, if I could add one thing too, I would just like to remember that barely 2 years ago, when we were sitting here, there was a great public demonstration about wanting an increase in police presence and police staff because of the increase in some of the property crime that's been taking place. And this council was responsive to that, and that's gone into the last couple of budgets.
Right. Okay. All right. So we're just going to go down the line and ask, I'm just going to start with Craig and kind of go down the line to see what ideas you have for cuts on the budget. And we'll just start with you.
Well, unfortunately, I forgot my binder, but I don't know. There was some good points that's already been acknowledged from the town manager with, coming to that agreement with animal control is pretty big. That was huge, even though since we switched over to East Haven, they've been very beneficial and they work with us well, so.
Well, that's good to hear. I know you're on the force.
Well, because I dealt with both, and a lot of people were unhappy with Branford, but I dealt with both, and one time we had to call up East Haven because Branford wouldn't help us out with a situation where we had someone barricaded in the house with a pit bull. We called up East Haven, they went right in there, they took the dog out, we went in there and took the person out of there, for the mom. And so I was pretty happy that, we worked out with them. But that's about it. I've been actually in training, so I haven't been able to look at much.
Okay, that's fair.
I'm sorry, Fred, you can't do that?
Do what?
As a police officer, because I know that, I've heard that people want the police to sit there and be the animal control.
Bruce, I know where you're going with this, but the whole problem is there's this different situation. We're not trained to do that because the first thing we're trained is if a dog's coming at us, what's the first thing that's going to happen? And everybody's not going to be happy with those results. Those animal control people are highly trained and professionally trained on to handle animals. So when they go in there, they get that dog, they bring it out, or whatever could be in there, because sometimes, you're dealing with all things in this town, so, and they do it very well. Our first reaction is to protect ourselves or protect people around us, and, and that's it. So there's only one ending. And I don't want to do that, because I'm a dog lover.
Yeah, and to mention other things we deal with in this town, I was driving to work, I work in East Hartford, I go down Northford Road, and then the first time in my life, I almost hit 2 cows coming across the street over by the farm, and I had to call dispatch back. Yeah, I don't know if you know who, nothing I thought I was gonna have to deal with them, but again, that might be an animal control concern, where they're gonna have to go out and
When I worked in New Haven, when I came here, I think I almost got hit by a bison up on Bizzuto's land there, and I was like, what was that? And someone told me one of their animals got loose, and then someone told me that a horse got loose. I said, what do I do with a horse? Never dealt with those. And the animal people, I actually called up the farmers, and they're very good at what they have, but, animal control, they're best at what they do. And at East Haven, I am really happy with them, because every time, at 3 o'clock in the morning, I had something, dispatcher says, oh, I don't think they're gonna come, because that's what they were used to before. And this woman came out, and we ended up getting 2 little beagles that were barking the whole night, finding them in the woods, and probably saving them from any predator that probably would have ate them, because they were puppies. And of course, I took a picture with them, because they were so adorable, but it was just great. So I'm happy with East Haven.
Just want to clarify that what you guys do isn't animal control.
Yeah, we're not, no.
Well, and the other thing, North Branford did have their own animal control
Right, I
years
was
ago.
gonna say that too, yeah.
It was by the Public Works. And so to establish our own department, to have a building, officers, vehicles, and everything else, it would be far more costly than what our contract is with East Haven. And these are the types of services that the state strongly urges you to regionalize with other towns for these benefits, because you just cannot all towns cannot afford to do these services, and we were very fortunate that East Haven had room in their budget to do this and was willing to do negotiations with us and came up with our original contract that we've had. It'll be 2 years in September with them, but there was something in the original contract that we could renegotiate with them after 18 months of service because they didn't, and we didn't really know what our call volume was with Branford. And so that was a big thing in our contract. And, thank you, Mike, for continuing, to look at that and to call them. And they came to the table and we were able to negotiate a lower price. And it's good to hear from the police department because they're the ones that get the calls from people sometimes. Sometimes they do call animal control directly, but they also do call the police department. It's good to hear that there's a good working relationship with them and everything. So thank you for that. Okay, Marie.
I guess I would like to start off by saying that I really like the idea of the department heads deciding if we have to tell them a certain amount, but I feel more comfortable letting them make the decision as to where the cut should be. I appreciate that list that we got today, and if we tell them all if they have to cut a little more, again, I feel, I don't want to tell them where to cut. I think they should make those decisions. One of the questions I have for Anthony, and maybe I missed it, that I think it's $293,000 or something for fire hydrants. Is that a contract with the Regional Water Authority? That's there's no chance of cutting some of that money.
Now, they charge us so much per hydrant and so much per linear foot of the pipe.
And when it said something in there about there's a reduction because of condos. Does that mean they're taking care of the hydrants at condo associations?
No, about 20 years ago, the condos had separate arrangements with the water authority. And they paid a much higher rate, and they had a little lower quality service as a private fire hydrant, basically. What the town decided to do was extend our umbrella over those hydrants. They're now considered town hydrants, and then we bill back the condo associations for the fee. It saves the condos, it's a lower fee, it gets a better service, and it's better all the way around.
Well, see, I would argue with that because I'm the president of Montgomery Village Condo Association, and they do not take care of our condos. And when we had one hit, they refused to help. So that's why I'm questioning what if they're getting some kind of reduction because of taking care of condos. We even have to pay ourselves to have them opened up and checked. So I was just wondering if that amount was a contract.
We could pursue it, including them into the umbrella. I could reach out to the water company and see if we can capture their hydrants and then bill them back.
So they might not be under the...
If Marie says no,
I can tell you right now, they do not take care of the hydrants at Montgomery Village.
Oh, so it's not all condo.
That's why I'm just curious.
North Farms, there's several that they do take care of.
I was just curious when I saw that amount of money in there.
Yeah.
Is there any opportunity to renegotiate that contract? How often? I've never seen that contract come up.
I just happened to go through every page, and we hadn't talked about that during our budget sessions, and it kind of hit me as a large number.
I don't believe there's a contract. I believe it's just that.
Well, I think I would like to look at that.
Yeah.
I can explore it and see what the options are.
Yeah, I mean, they're asking for a reduction in their sewer use fees from us.
They're just setting an arbitrary fee that we have no...
Yeah, and, we lose a lot of land space in town because of Lake Gillard and everything.
That's why they hit me, that number.
Yes, I think it's worth exploring to see what the possibility is on that.
Itself is something where anytime there's these arbitrary costs that we're spending, we've always spent them, we have to look at each of them and say, okay, are these still relevant? That's something we have to look and see if it's still relevant, it's something that we can reduce.
Right.
It's hard to go about our regular business, and we may not know that it's something that comes up all the time, but it's something we have to look into.
We don't get enough pilot money from them, but that's a discussion for another time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I guess my other thought was looking at the amount of money we are spending in technology. Can we take a second look? Is there someplace where we can do some more cutting? That is also a large number as I went through the budget. not against technology, but is it possible that we're duplicating? And I think that's another place that we should look. Those are my thoughts.
Okay. Thank you. Jeff?
So we talked about this at length. There's not an easy answer. Simply, we have to spend less and we have to look and make hard cuts. So it's going to be on some hours, and we're going to ask some departments to look towards hours. I do think it's appropriate to ask and to continue to ask the department heads who know their departments the best to help us make those cuts and reductions where that can be necessary. Us sitting up here, we are the final fiduciaries on it, and we want to make sure that these cuts are plausible and, or I should say, are viable to do so. That if they're plausible, only the department heads know that. We talked about the reduction in the refuse collection and bringing it to one time a year. I think that takes some dollars down, about $15,000 down. I think it's probably something we can reduce to just one. I'm actually in the opposite camp, that I believe in revenue more than I do cuts. I come from a corporate world, and I think that this town needs to start looking at revenue for the future. We're going to make cuts, and these cuts are going to feel good, or they're not. They're not going to be huge, and they're not going to be as impactful as we want them to be. The mill rate's gone up, and it's going to continue to go up every year because that's how things work. Things get more expensive. Unfortunately, the state has revalued, and valuations on the properties in this home made it more expensive to live here. The only way to stop that is by getting more revenue in here. Cuts are going to take services away, and I'm sure we can continue. We can cut a library, we can cut a person, we can take an officer off the force. We can do all these different things, but it's not going to make a big impact until we bring in revenue. And we've talked about this over and over again. And we start to build in this town so that we have revenues coming in that aren't just from the pocketbooks of the people that live here. And every single person on this board who is doing this in a volunteer is paying just as those folks that are out there listening to this. We care about this. We don't want to pay more either. But we recognize that, and unfortunately, it's a necessity. So I think we want to be careful that, the old adage that you don't cut your nose off to spite your face, that these cuts may be something that we do today but hurts in the future and the growth of this town and the trajectory of this town. So I think that's something we have to take into consideration and think about. What's the trajectory of this town? Why do people want to continue to come to this town and stay in this town? If it doesn't have any resources and it's just a piece of land, maybe people don't stay, or that's the way I look at it. But I do think that we need to, each department head needs to look into it further and see where there's some areas that they can find some cuts. I'll continue to help them do so.
Okay, thank you. Bruce?
So I was actually going to ask for a raise.
Okay, great.
Being on the council, we make so much money.
Do you want 2 bottles of water at a meeting instead of one?
Mike, does the bottle come out of your pocket when you supply
Actually,
it to us?
it does. I don't charge the town for it. I buy it.
Well, thank you.
But he refills them after the meeting, so.
Not with water.
Oh, my God.
Just hope you get the same bottle back at the next meeting.
So, I'm
Unintentional.
kidding, obviously. So there were some things that I actually wrote down. One of them actually is related to the library. I'm not a big believer in closing a library. I visit the library, I use the library. I like going to Northford. I live up in Northford. I have gone to the library here in North Branford. One of my ideas is to alternate Saturdays. This way we don't have to close down a library. I believe that the library, one could be open on one Saturday in Northford, and the next Saturday here in North Branford. So I believe it would be 2 Saturdays a month that they would be closed. So I believe that would save the salaries. There would be savings there. This way we don't have to shut down a library.
Okay. So I noticed in the proposed, or what the library gave $2,000, proposed $2,000 for part-time wages. Lauren, can you just explain how you came up
Sure,
with
so
that?
the
That's called the
2,000 in
Saturdays.
proposed reductions was for the part-time account. That was actually for the Sunday closures to account for that. If you do choose to go with the alternating Saturdays, we can reduce that account even further. I don't know the number off the top of my head, but I can certainly come back to that with you for next meeting.
Okay, that would be great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tom?
Okay, so I asked Mike to provide us with a list of, town employees. And in the last 11 years, if the numbers are right, we've increased our employment by 53 people. So I think we need to really look at that and see if that's accurate. Number one, is it accurate? But that's the numbers I was given. I sorted it by department, by year. We started off in 2015. There's some I didn't include. If it was one department, one employee, and it was like that I didn't include that. But the number was 93, and now it's 146. So there might be something in there that needs to be looked at. Further suggestions would be, possibly reducing some headcount in departments. Possibly, I have these listed as discussion points. I'm not saying what we should discuss them. And, if we reduce the library, that could be 12 people, based on my numbers. Now, I don't know if they're accurate.
If we closed a library, is that what you're saying?
Yeah, reduce
Okay.
the library. I would think we might want to pause on a police car. We might want to pause on the fire truck. Then there was some budget funding for town hall security, some budget funding for pavement, and there was something that's titled townwide generator, and then some education paving. I was taking the column down that was coming out of budget funding, which affects the mill rate, and it came to about $379,000. Whether we can reduce all of that, I do not know, but it's something we should look at, because it could have an impact. But definitely, we should look at, where we are with the size of our departments, and is it necessary?
Okay, so we all got a copy of the list of employees that Tom had requested. And when I looked at it, I looked at it and highlighted all of our part-time employees versus full-time employees. And there are some departments that have a lot of part-time employees, but those are departments also that generate income from those part-time employees. And so that is something that you have to look at also. And also in that list, they listed, which is, anyone that gets paid. So the clerks, or all of our boards and commissions who are very part-time, those are listed as employees, but they're listed as a part-time employee, but they're on the list of employees. So, all boards and commissions, when they have the public meetings, have a clerk to them. And it might be one clerk, and they serve several different boards and commissions on there, but they're the clerk that is taking the minutes and everything. So those types of employees are listed on there. Part-time help, I know Public Works hires seasonal help. So those employees are in there. The library has seasonal, Park and Rec has seasonal, but they're all listed as employees. So that is something that we have to take a look at as to whether they're part-time or full-time in the employee count. And then also exactly what is their role and are they generating income? And is their positions basically paid for because of the money that is generated by the programs that they service on there. So that's a critical piece in looking at employee counts. It's not always just black and white, well, you increased by 53, but exactly where were those employees on there? So, but those were good suggestions also on this, on the CIP account to look at things, and I'll address some of that when it comes to me as far as additional funding from the state and things like that. So, Walt, do you have any?
Yeah, this is incredibly hard because I don't think any of us enjoy cutting anything, but, you know, we have to, and I have 4 key things that I would like to look at would be holding off on some of the vehicles, cutting workforce by 5 to 10% in some areas. This is coming from somebody whose wife is a librarian. Close a library, and look at the insurance buyout, either reduce it or eliminate it. Those are my 4.
Okay. So, we have talked about the, in technical terms, it's called payment in lieu of benefits, and that's the buyout on the insurance. And a lot of that right now is driven by contracts. And so it's hard to just say, yes, we'll get rid of it. It does need to be looked at, but we can't look at all of them because it's built into a contract right now. And it's a discussion we need to have with the town attorney as far as what is the cost of opening a contract just to look at that. Because it's not as easy as opening a contract and saying we're going to get rid of that or change the method to it. There's a lot more that goes into it, and it's definitely a topic that we can have discussion on, but I can tell you it's not going to happen between now and June 1st when we have to finalize the budget, because there's a lot that goes into it, but it definitely opens the door for discussion in regards to it. And to see once where we can go and how it gets handled. And I know, you know, a resident had written in about that and said that no other town in the state does it, and that definitely is wrong because a lot of municipalities and a lot of private businesses also do it. And they all have different methods of how they handle it, but it is an incentive to actually save you money, because if someone doesn't take the insurance, that person, you save more by giving them a little bit than by having them on your insurance policy on there. So there are many different methods to it on there, so it's definitely something that we are talking about and will look at, but most likely, it's not going to happen in this budget, and the town attorney will be talking to us and getting us information in regards to that. I'd love to know. So, okay, thank you, Walt. Nick, do you have any?
Okay, a few things. I'm going to piggyback on a lot of what everybody else said because I'm going last. And mainly because everybody had some really great ideas. I haven't disagreed with anything that anybody up here has said. Couple things I came up with, in a sense, and I didn't come up with this one, with a library closure. And the reason I bring this up, if you read the letters, if you go on Facebook, it's like nonstop. Close the library, we're a small town, why do we need 2 libraries? And I understand that, and I do use the libraries, and I am a fan of the libraries, but I would be curious, and I'm not saying this, that we would have this for June 1. Can we see what the cost savings would be if we had closed the library and we consolidated to one, and see if, for the future, if it's even worthwhile? Because it might be something that everybody's asking for, and then when you run the numbers, you find out it's not really, it's like a drop in the bucket. But I think it would be good just for the public and everybody to know that, hey, I understand the idea, but it's not going to amount to much.
Can I add something to that? I'm sorry to interject, but we talked about this. One of the buildings, which is the library in Northford, I believe, can't be closed. well, it cannot be used for anything else.
Right.
That piece of property was gifted to the town of North Branford a very long time ago from the church, and it can only be used for the purposes what it's being used for. So these are real, again, we're hot and bothered, we want to make suggestions, I get it, but sometimes it's not even viable to do it. And then as Nick made a point to, sometimes those changes are drops in the bucket. So yes, good idea, something we can look into, certainly something you can look at the numbers for, but realistically, it may not even be viable to do, A, and B, it may not really move the needle, and then you to end up having less of a service. I know a lot of folks that use the library. We use the library for more than what you're just thinking of. It's just folks would go there and read. It's a community center. It's a cooling and heating center. It has a purpose for a lot of other municipal meetings, as well as crafts, and kids, Girl Scouts, and Boy Scouts. It's being used for a litany of things. It's not just going in there and reading books and doing book reports like we did back then. It's used for a lot of different things. And parents are there constantly with their kids doing educational seminars, all sorts of things. So when we talk about closing a library, remember, we're a long town that has two very different areas. It may not be worth doing so. So look into the numbers, not saying we don't look at it, but it's been a popular idea to close a library. It's going to change everything. We're not talking likely a very big change, but let's look at the numbers and figure that out.
And then I also love the idea, I mean, I know cuts need to be made, but increasing revenue wherever we can. One thing that I've thought of, and I've actually thought of this for a long time, and having a few Board of Education members here really brought it to the forefront. It's a question I just have in general. Do we rent out our auditorium for use, our fields and stuff like that? Because it just seems, and I always think of this every year, that my daughter's dance school, which is in Branford, they go to East Haven High School for their dance recital, and it seems all these dance studios, I know like 3 of them off the top of my head that all use East Haven. Well, why aren't they using ours? Is that something that, we can generate a little revenue there? Same with the fields and stuff like that, to outside sporting events, other schools, things like that.
We do fields.
Also, along those lines with, I know the Board of Ed runs the summer camp at TVS. It's a great camp. My daughter goes at least a few weeks every year. She'll be going a few weeks, probably again this year. But now our Park and Rec also runs a camp, which I believe is a little bit cheaper. Can we, on the Park and Rec side, increase our camp fees a little bit? I mean, not enough to, put people in the poorhouse to where they can't afford it, but maybe there's a little bit more there, and that could, also help cover the cost for some of the part-time employees. Other things with our police department, our road jobs, the private duty officers, have we looked at what our admin fees are? By admin fees, I mean what we're charging the company. I know working in East Hartford, our admin fees are pretty high. We charge for the use of the car, we charge a higher, basically it means that the UI, Eversort, all these companies, what they're paying to have the officer, not what the officer who's working it makes, but that's a revenue generator too, and making sure that they're hiring officers when we have these jobs and not flaggers. You can generate revenue there. And then another one that everybody keeps talking about, the blight and the Central Plaza and stuff, and I know we've talked about this in the past. Have fines been assessed to these buildings, to these landlords? Can tax liens be done? I mean, I know we have a blight ordinance now. I made a complaint on one, a residential one, and that was like 2 months ago, and the most this guy's done is put a tarp over his rusted out limousine that's been there probably since the 70s. I mean, what are we doing with that?
So, since you enacted the blight ordinance in the summer, we have been all over the owner of Central Plaza. He has been assessed quite a few fines, and they continue to increase, not just in appearance, but in safety. He's also now getting building code violations. You may remember the building that houses the current Town Line Liquor. There was a structural issue out in front, and back in February, he was ordered to address it, and when he had begun to, and the edifice was peeled back, part of it collapsed, and he was forced to close the building for 3 days while repairs were made. There's another building in the plaza that also has structural issues, and he's had temporary supports up. He has until May 25th, after this is about a 90-day process, to finally put those supports and get them repaired and fixed, so that's no longer a safety hazard. And to date, he has not done that, and that will likely, something I was going to talk to the council a little bit later on about, obviously, but, and the businesses that are there, we've been in constant contact with all of them while this is going on. But we may have to close that building until he addresses those. Now, interestingly enough, a car struck one of the buildings today. Two of the businesses, Sonny's Nails and Poppy's Restaurant, who would have been impacted by this building closure, the other is Nada's Restaurant, would have been closed if we hit that May 25th deadline, and now they're closed because there's a structural issue there because of the impact of the vehicle. So, so regardless of the outcome on the 25th, they're closed right now because of the structural concerns and the safety concerns. Those are our primary concerns. This is a place where our businesses have been long suffering there with conditions. The town deserves better, the patrons deserve better, the businesses deserve better, and we are working on it. In concert with the town attorney, I mean, we've been putting all possible pressure for correction out there since we've gotten that blight ordinance. And in fact, if the blight ordinance hadn't been enacted, it probably wouldn't have given us the in we needed for the structural and building concerns that we have out there. So a lot's being done, and we'll continue to do it.
Can we invite the owner here for one of our meetings? Would you show up?
He won't even answer them half the time, so, you know.
Be careful about how I characterize this. But the owner is not highly responsive until, until we had the blight ordinance, he basically only responded to our fire marshal. Now with the fines escalating and things, he is been more responsive, and we've been able to get him, but we haven't been able to get him to take a lot of action that we need quickly enough. And he lives in New Jersey. So he's not somebody who lives here, he's not somebody who we have access to, and certainly we could invite him, but I think it's, we can't get him to show up for some of the things we'd like to. I doubt he's gonna come here to get, pilloried by everybody, but, yeah.
There's 20 buildings like that. And then my last thing, it's more a question for the mayor. I know, talking about cutting down to the one pole, what about the sheet metal, with the metal collection? If we cut that down or out, would there be a cost savings there?
I thought it was part of the bulk pickup, they just separated, which I don't know.
The scrap metal collection.
Scrap metal. And the reason I ask is because, I live in the middle of nowhere, kind of,
Yep.
and I could put metal out on any given week, and there'll be about 4 scrappers coming by to grab it. And so, that
Yeah.
a lot of times takes care of itself, and if not, just put it with the bulk pickup.
I could look at that and see if there's a difference that would make.
Okay. I thought it was part of it, they just.
It may be.
split it
I'm
between
not sure.
That's why
I'm not sure if they
I don't know how it
were
works.
parsing that in the number they gave us, but I could double check on that.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Mike tells me they do consider it part of bulk pickup, so you just clear it.
Okay. All right, so I do have a few ideas also in regards to the budget. So I have been in contact with our state rep, Vinnie Candelora. Unfortunately, the state's budget will not be finalized before June 1st. There has been talk in the Appropriations Committee that the ECS money that was cut in North Branford would be restored, which is $254,000. Personally, I don't feel comfortable counting on that money before they finalize their budget, because you don't know what could happen in the 11th hour. And they could, the promises are, yeah, we're gonna do it, and then all of a sudden something happens and we don't get it and we counted on it. But my suggestion would be, so it was the ECS money, $254,000, and then some LoCIP money, which is about $90,000.
It's town aid road, 91,000.
How much is it?
Town aid road.
Oh, town aid road money.
91.
So they're both on the table at the state, but they could, we could end up with it or we could not. If we counted on it and then didn't get it, we're in a bigger hole. So I would prefer to look at the CIP budget and what's under budget funds, and maybe we can make some cuts on there with the thought process that if we end up getting the money, we can then reinstate some of those projects back using the money that we get. It would still have an impact on our mill rate by cutting them, but we would still be able to do them if we got the money on there. So what I was thinking of was on payment, what is it? Is it payment overlay? Here yes. So payment overlay, which is in Public Works, we have a budget total, and a lot of this does already have state money in it. So under budget funds, though, we have $238,000 of budget funds. So my suggestion would be to cut, $80,000, $85,000, approximately what we might get in town aid money. Cut that from the budget funds, and if we get the town aid money back, can we increase, is that a possibility that we just reinstate it, but it would be under town aid instead of budget funds on there? The other spot is the big paving project at TVES. So most of that paving project right now is under fund balance, so it's not affected by it. There is $50,000 under budget funds, is to cut that $50,000. We would know prior to them starting the project, because I don't think they're starting it until in July or whatever. I mean, they're doing the high school first, which is under the high school project, and then I believe they're moving up to TVES, is to cut that, and then if we get the ECS money in there, we could use some of that money to fund the rest of that project. Or one of the other things I had asked for from Anthony is if there's any capital projects that we can close out, that have money in it, that we can close out. And if we have money in other capital projects that's already been allocated, is to allocate it to the project so that we can just move ahead with it and get that project done. So do you?
I haven't got an answer for you yet, no.
Okay.
There will be some money left though.
Okay. So that would be a suggestion also. I see that the fire department, as part of their cuts, cut the Lucas from the budget. I thought your demonstration at one of our budget workshops was very important and was very telling.
At that point in time, we had one that we thought was beyond repair, and the manufacturer was having difficulty finding parts, but they were able to repair it.
Okay.
So that's why I didn't need to, you can eliminate this one.
So we don't need it?
Don't need it.
We don't need it, okay.
Thank you.
Because otherwise I was gonna say, if we got the money, that would be something that I would reinstate on there. So can you, what is the townwide generator and building monitoring for 7,500? What was that?
We've had problems in our large buildings where randomly the generators don't work when we need them to work. We all know the history we've had with MBIS situation. This is going to pay for monitoring for the 3 generators, the MBIS generator, which functions as our shelter and where our communications all come out of, the police station and public works. It'd be a monitoring thing to see that A, they exercise when they're supposed to exercise, so that you're not caught in an emergency with no generator, because that's happened. We've had situations where all generators have failed for various reasons. We had one last winter at the ambulance building. The battery was dead. We'd never have known that unless the power went out and it didn't kick on. So this proposal was to do, I think, like 7 or 8 buildings, the firehouses, all the different stations that have generators. This was a 3 proposal through our 3 biggest ones, you know, between the police station, public works, and MBIS, to have a monitoring on that shows you, okay, it exercises, it's working fine. If there's a problem, it'll alert you. So it's kind of like a peace of mind, if you want to call it that, because we have been burned in the past with generators not working when we needed them to work. That's all it is.
So it's a maintenance service, basically?
It's a monitoring service that sends out when, okay, your generator is running tonight. It's on its exercise on Monday nights. Okay, boom. It ran for half hour. Beautiful. If it's all something, the battery dies, it'll send you a notice versus having to wait for the power to go out and the generator. It's kind of an issue.
It's kind of something.
It's kind of something, you know. So this was seen. We cut it down from the original 7 or 8, whatever the number was, down to 3, just to kind of ease into it to see if it made sense and to get it working for us. That was the idea behind it. Could it be cut? We've lived without it forever. It's not the end of the world. It's just peace of mind that we had been burned with having generators not work when we needed them to work. So it was seen as a way to.
Is it possible to do periodic checks on these generators manually? Meaning we can have, you know, someone in that location. I mean, I'm not asking.
No, it's more in depth than that.
Yeah.
It's more in depth than that.
We do that, but like you said, we actually have one on our generator now that sends us codes out. So even if you go out every month and look at it, stuff goes wrong.
Yep, I got it.
That's pretty important stuff.
We
gotta have that.
An alarm go off. Brand new.
Okay. So that's what, those would be my suggestions on the CIP list. In regards to the operating budget, one area that I would look at again is we are in contingency. So we already started, the proposal was $325,000 in contingency, and what that covers is any contracts that were negotiated during the year and or just settled. It's more that were just settled. So we do have one contract that we just approved at our last meeting, but those increases were not part of the budget because it wasn't, the contract wasn't approved yet. So we have to we have to put that money into the budget. So contingency covers that. It covers the administrator raises. There's just a dollar amount in there. The town manager is in charge of reviews for all of the administrators, and he has to live within the amount of money that we give him and say, this is what you're allocated. So there's a dollar amount in there. So we would look at that to reduce that pot of money. And then also the balance of it and the majority of it is for, it's just kind of like our savings account. It's an account in case something goes wrong. We can't just dip into the general fund to pay for it. We have to have money allocated. But if I read the budget book correctly, when it said contingency and where we were at this year, that 69,000 that's in there as of when the budget book was printed, is that what's left in contingency
Right.
right now from this current year?
Correct.
So I think there's room to bring that number down, and department heads just need to know that this is like a true emergency that happens, that you come and it's not in your budget, something happens, you have to make your case, and if we have the money in contingency, we can pay for it. If we have a really bad year and a lot of department has things go wrong and they come before us on here, and if we have to do, if it's something that has to be done, we can always get to the point where we freeze budgets to get the money from within budgets if we don't have enough money left in contingency. And I think we have to reduce that amount in contingency. So from the 325, we already reduced 60 in our first budget. So we're already down to 265 in there. So I think we need to come up with a number to reduce that some more, as far as what our starting balance would be for emergencies and the pot of money that would be used for administrators' raises. The public work raises, they're already set. So that dollar amount has to come out of there anyway. That contract is negotiated. We do not have any contract negotiations coming up for this fiscal year, so we don't have any other ones to allocate for on there. So my suggestion would be is that we look at that and come up with a number.
Is there a minimum amount of money that we have to leave in contingency? Or is it just it's an arbitrary number?
It's an arbitrary number that we can
It's a
take.
safety
and-
net.
It's a safety net, and
So
it's.
it's our rainy day fund.
Well, it gives you the ability, as Mayor mentioned, if something happens.
So it's 80.
And if we don't spend it all, it goes back into the general fund.
Okay,
So, like, if we have roughly $70,000 left, and we have, 5 weeks left of the fiscal year, this was a good year.
Right.
So whatever's left will go back into the general fund. So that's what I was looking at to reduce the amount to start with for next year.
70,000?
Well, no, I don't have a number in mind.
Oh, okay.
Is.
Well, we don't have to talk about numbers tonight.
Right, but it's something to think about. It's my suggestion, and so if we reduced it by, we have to come up with a number of what we are going to tell the town manager to use for admin raises, and you're talking 17? How many admin are in that group?
20,
17?
is that? That was like 20.
Okay, so there's 17 administrators that are in the pot, so we have to think of that. And then what we want as our safety net. And then the public works.
I have a question, and maybe I'm off base here. We haven't gotten the audit from last year. Is it possible that there's some surplus money in it from last year? Do we know that yet?
Not yet.
But
No, there's no surplus, or we don't know?
We don't know the answer. There will be surplus,
But
So
it does.
doesn't that go into the general fund?
fund balance.
Yeah. Yes. Yes, it goes into the fund balance, and that's on, like, our CIP, when it says the CIP is through the fund balance, that's where we've taken it out of, is
So,
that.
but we don't know if we have any.
I mean, do you have a general idea? Is it a large number, small number,
Don't have a number yet.
medium number?
Itsy bitsy number?
Yeah. Do we have an idea of when
I'll
audit?
try to nail it. Next Friday, we're closing the books,
Next Friday, so,
29th.
okay, so 11 months after, so.
Well,
A little bit better than the year before.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then the next day, you're gonna have to start the next one.
So, okay. The other area is in the police department. And so there's an officer that the chief has told us about. He came before us to hire that they were trying to get on board prior to July 1st, and it's through the, Chief, if you can just come up and, what program is that?
Opioid.
Right,
Yeah.
but what's the state program?
It's basically, it's easiest to remember as the Connecticut State Narcotics Task Force, which is now BSI, they call it, but they do a wealth of different things, so.
Okay, so this is the program that the chief came and talked to us about, where if we dedicate a member to that task force, there is reimbursement back to the town every month that the officer is with them. They do have the ability to, if we need them on staff, to pull them back into North Branford on there. But the big thing is that the town gets the resources of this whole department on there. And we do have a fund that we get money from, and it's the opioid fund. We have over $100,000 in that fund. We had asked, we approved to give the police department $25,000 to cover this person to start them earlier than July 1st. The chief has been doing interviews. That they are not on board yet. They're still going through the process. Chances of them having to use that $25,000 in this fiscal year is probably slim. That they'll, if they do use any of the money, it would be very minimal. So that account would have most of that money still left in it. So my proposal would be to take $50,000 from the opioid fund to pay, the part of the salary of this person in the police department. Because we've had this money for a couple years and haven't used it, and if they see that we're not using it, we will stop getting the money as long as they're funding it. And the other use of that money is, I think, is for the Narcan, which I know Jimmy has, the chief has a line item for Narcan in his budget. I think that should just come directly out of the opioid fund. And I also think that the police department should coordinate with the schools, because I know they have Narcan in the schools also. So whatever, and I know it's probably not a large number, but I think whoever, I believe it's the nursing supervisor who takes care of ordering the Narcan and doing all of that stuff, they should coordinate with the police department and just have that. Let them do it this way, because in the schools, they probably use it less than the police department does. So before it gets expired and everything else, the chief could.
Yeah, so by state statute, we use double per every occurrence we go to now. So not only if we use Narcan or naloxone, however you want to say it, but we also have to leave at least one behind for a possible next use when we're not there. So that's by state statute that we have to do that now.
Yeah. So
Does the state reimburse you on the opioid fund every year? Is it something
That was off a settlement, and they tell us it's good for the next 10, 15 to 20 years for the money they got from the settlement. But what they also said, if you're not using the money, then they're taking the money back to use it in
They'll give it to
areas.
other towns.
So
So you know where it's good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Chief, what do you mean double it? You double it?
So if we go to an overdose response and we use our Narcan, then, so that one's gone, we can't reuse it again, but we also have to leave, even if that person's transported, we have to leave with the people there at least another dose of Narcan.
So if they overdose again, and they can give it to them.
Self-administer?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
So now everyone's a double one that we're going through. So
Okay.
they're about $100 a box, and now you're doubling it up every single day.
Do that? Do they self-administer, or does?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, some people, yeah.
For some of those, man.
Chief, how many towns are on that task force that our officers going to be going to?
There is approximately 25 officers that are assigned to that task force. So
From
from
what towns are they
various
from?
agencies, I could get you the list,
Well,
but
I don't
yeah.
need the exact one,
Yeah,
from
but
all the
between the
towns?
state police and then other jurisdictions within here, so.
So from that one officer that we're giving up, we're actually gaining 35.
Plus a check back to the town for wherever
Yeah.
it gets deposited.
That's great.
It doesn't go to us, it goes to the.
So when do you estimate that you'll have an officer to go?
I have one assigned right now that's going, they have to go through another background process, and we're waiting for that to clear, and then we'll be good.
So it'll be after, do you figure after July, you think?
That officer will be there before, and I'll have to cover those funds until then. So we'll see.
Okay.
So there is money there,
Plus, usually-
and I think it's a good use of that money.
You don't want to flood back,
Pardon me?
you don't want to have flood back.
No.
Makes no sense.
And also for the Narcan, that, you know, I know the police department, in the scheme of things, it's not a large budget item, but at this point in time, every dollar helps.
How much you spend a year on it? Just curious.
We're budgeted for about $3,000 a year. That was before we had to start doubling up the dosage per call, so.
Yeah, so,
We buy it as well, the fire buys it.
Yeah, the fire department as well.
yes, so have the fire department, I don't know how much is in your budget for line item on that, but.
I'll have to check. It's more in the ambulance budget.
Okay, that's fine, but I think it should all come out of this opioid account. That's what it's there for, to use, and the best use of this money, I think, is that officer. And,
Does it expire, like, what's the expiration? So if you purchase it today, is it good for a year, is it good for a month?
I believe they're about,
It depends.
I'll have to look at one. I think they're good for almost 2 years. So even if they do expire, then what we use is we put them aside for training, because we have to recertify with our, and that's part of it. So then those become used for training. So we don't really just throw them away in the garbage. But then you have to be careful on heat and cold,
With the
depending what you're
temperature.
storing. There's
yeah,
all sorts of things, so.
yeah. So I think because the schools now carry Narcan in the schools also.
Yep.
I think it should just all run through the police department. I mean, we don't have a lot of schools, so it's not a big item.
Yeah, and normally when we
Testing.
order, it's within 24 hours unless we see some type of epidemic spread, and then you have to start jockeying your
Right.
stuff. But it all
Okay.
depends on what kind of quality product is out there, so.
Okay, all right. Thank you. So that's one of my suggestions. Another one of my suggestions is in the police pension account. We've already made one cut in next year's estimated pension, and that's a moving target, and it's just an estimate, and it's only for the people that are in the defined benefit plan. And so how that's calculated is they just have to estimate how many of those people are going to take extra duty. And that's what makes it a moving target. On all the other people that are in the defined contribution plan, it's easy, it's just a percentage of salary. But on this, they have to estimate and they guess. But they do have prior history, so they can see what, over the last couple of years, where that has stood. Were we over, were we under, what happens with it? So I would just like Anthony to look at this year's budget, where we're at on this year's budget.
Gotcha.
Are we under, and if so, by what? And we can kind of make an estimate for next year if we can cut more from that budget. But the other thing we have talked about in pension committee, because we know that we're underfunded on our defined benefit plans, whether it's police, town employees, fire, whatever, is that at the end of the year, if there's money left in that pension account number, it doesn't get spent on other things, like, oh, let's go out and spend it. If we overestimate it and we have money, it goes to pension to pay down on the pension fund. Because we know at some point in time, we have to make up that anyway, so let's just start doing that.
What's the amount we're off?
It's
Multiple millions.
Yeah, it's substantial.
Get that number for you.
It's been, you know, it didn't happen just now, it's been years. You know, something that, you know, before all of us were on the council.
Is there a percentage, Anthony?
I'll get the number for you.
Unfortunately, not uncommon.
So it's kind of a scary number, huh?
We're like 50 to 55% funded. And you want to be 75 to, you're not going to be 100% unless you're like in Fairfield County. You want to be 75 to 80% to be comfortable, and we've never been 75 to 80%.
Would it ever come back and haunt us?
No, because we make the annual contributions the actuary tells us to make. And at the end of the day, we'll get fully funded. It's a matter of, we got to get there.
Yeah.
And as the mayor said, if you have surplus money, that's the perfect use to put it towards that, to kind of help that. It's like a paying a mortgage off early kind of thing.
But as long as it doesn't haunt us.
How do you say that no matter what, it will get funded then? Like, how do you know that?
Because the way the actuary used to tell us how much to put in every year, they have a target to get to 100% funding. It's like a 20-year cycle, let's say if it is. So they have what they tell us to put in every year, coupled with what the employee puts in, coupled with the investment earnings, at the end of a 20-year span, will be fully funded.
So that, what changes is, of course, the, you know, what your earnings are on there. You know, they're just estimates based on history. You know, they could either do much better than what you anticipated, or they could.
Floating number.
Yeah. And also, you know, the timing of people retiring and, you know, what they end up choosing as their benefit on there. So there's a lot of things that play into it, but that's what the actuary does and gives us. And that is one thing that this council and all previous councils have been very strict on, is if they tell you you need to put in, you know, $500,000, we don't cut it. We put in what they tell us, because that's where you will get into problems. And that's how other surrounding communities have gotten into huge problems, because that's where they cut to save money, and then.
It's a tough year, can't put it in, tough year, can't put it in, and then just keep snowballs, and then before you know it, you're issuing pension bonds, it's just a nightmare. And like, as the mayor mentioned, in the 30 years I've been here, this council's never wavered from whatever the actuary said. You put it in, you put it in.
So we're putting in what we need to put in.
Exactly, that's why it's not a problem.
All right.
It's just, the optics of it are why you only 50% funded, and as the mayor kind of alluded to, some years we had some lower than predicted returns. That was the third part of that, the funding source. You know, if we predicted we're going to earn 8% and we earned 1% or even lost money, it kind of offsets the whole balance of life, and then it plays out over the 20-year span to get caught up, and a little bit more every year we get to put in and such. So the actuary has it all calculated out, but it's a problem, and if we have surplus cash, that's where it should go to.
Yeah.
Thank you, Anthony.
So those are my ideas. I think in just rough guessing as to, you know, between what departments have already, you know, said that we could do, and ideas that have come here that the town manager, you know, needs to get us some numbers on, because we don't know what they are yet on there. In order to do the best that, you know, I think, and what, you know, everyone will have their own opinion as to what substantial is. Everyone has a different opinion of what that is. But I would just like to ask the town manager to talk to his department heads and come back to us with some suggestions of, we all know where the true money is going to be saved is in staff, unfortunately. And if you can meet with your department heads and come back with some suggestions, and I personally don't have a number or a head count or anything like that, is when you talk to them, see once, are there full-time employees, part-time employees, you know, whatever the case is, come back with some recommendations that we can discuss.
You know, I'd just like to say, based on some of those comments that came in the email, I think that this town has tried very hard. I think the assistant town manager has tried very hard to bring in businesses. It's just a difficult time right now. You know, we've lost some businesses because it's a nationwide loss, but I think that the town has made a real effort. I think the Economic Development Commission has made an effort. It's not like people, aren't trying to bring in more revenue. I think one of the things that hurts us is we don't have an exit off of 95, like a lot of the shoreline towns do, and I just think, though, that they'd have to get credit, because I think you've tried real hard to bring in business, and you've brought in some businesses, but unfortunately, in this economic times, we're also losing businesses, but so is everybody else. But I think they have made the effort. I
Rory
think a lot
does
of people
entertain
mention
calls
that.
all the time. He said that at the meetings that he's entertained calls, but some of them are looking for certain, type of building which we don't have. Bigger buildings.
It's true, Rory takes a lot of calls from businesses, and, we're constantly working in conjunction, particularly with the Shoreline and the New Haven Chamber, in finding businesses that are interested in coming here, and a lot of times, we don't have something that suits exactly what their, either their needs are or their future expansion plans are. But, if I could just comment on that, because, Marie brought up a great point, I see some of the Facebook stuff too, and, they talk about closures in town. We've got, of course, we're losing the Agway, TD Bank, the Rite Aid closures, but those are all part of national or regional closures. None of them have cited any conditions in North Branford in particular that have forced them to, close businesses in, Chicago or Massachusetts. I mean, these are large restructuring things that have different things associated with them. And, on the positive side of the ledger, just in the last couple of years, I could think of lots of businesses that we've been doing ribbon cuttings for that we've successfully gotten here. Spark Cycle Works, Ariel's Barber Shop, Poppy's Coffee and Kitchen, Poppy's
Aaliyah's.
Bakery. Aaliyah's gluten,
That's a
right,
major
the gluten-free
one
one's a
on
big manufacturing
139.
thing that filled the Brook and Whittle building.
Yeah. They had to do a
so-
lot of renovations.
Yeah, we've
on that
had,
building.
yep, that's a big deal, and these are big wins for us. So yeah, we've made a positive impact there, and I think the council's well aware there's, future economic development possibilities that are going to be coming before you very shortly.
That's good.
So if you can have that discussion with your department heads, and if you can get us the information prior to the meeting on Tuesday night, just so that we have a chance to look at it before the meeting, as your suggestions or your recommendations to us,
Okay.
so we have time to review it.
And just
before
to
next
reiterate,
week's meeting.
there is no figure that you're targeting in
I
terms of.
don't have one, no. It's just, we're looking at it to see. I don't know if anyone else has. I know, Tom did a
It's
lot.
really big.
How many employees do you have, 140?
No, those numbers are not accurate. I went back, I got 20 years of data on here, and in 2005, we had 71 full-time employees. This year we have 84. So it's 13 employees and 13 in.
That's what I clarified when I said, when I made, started talking, that these numbers are accurate.
Yeah.
So I don't know why we
A lot of
give
the ads
inaccurate
are
numbers.
part-time.
Well, it depends on what you're looking for. That's, if you ask for all the employees forever and ever, that's what we gave you. But if you ask for specific points in time, I could have given you a point in time.
I did.
Yeah, it was
Employees by
2015, but
year.
it was
So the
both
numbers
part-time
we had
and
Pretty
off the
basic.
list,
and
it's not the
full-times.
list?
So,
That wasn't the right list?
So,
That's a list of all the employees that have been here. Some are still here, some have gone.
It's a list of
The
all the
budget
people
books,
who've ever been
the
here?
budget books have, every year has the last page as a personnel count that mirrors the sheets in the budget. You went to Public Works that say there's X amount of employees. That's on the sheet in the back of the
Well,
book.
if that's the case, that's worse on a whole nother subject. Because I asked specifically for what I wanted, and I was given it. First I noticed an error, and I questioned it, and then I got another list. So, again, if we can't come up with the right data, That's troubling to me. So, that's all I got to say, because I spent hours doing that, and if that was the wrong data, I'm a volunteer, I don't get paid.
You sure?
I'm positive. You can cut my salary in half and it's still zero.
Just making sure. Can we get the new list, the right
So-
list? Can we get the right list?
I give you a personnel count by year of each department. It mirrors the budget book.
So here's the question, Mike. We have 84 full-time employees.
Yeah.
That's across North Branford and Northford. That includes all departments. Yes?
Yes.
And they're working how hard? Like, I don't think that if, we're not adding any more employees to sit there and assist that, yes?
Not in this budget.
Right. So if we, I can't see eliminating any full-time employees because we're already short, are we not?
We have a couple things that we haven't hired back for.
And they're doing double duty.
Yep.
So eliminating any full-time employees, I think would be really difficult. Would actually hurt us, not benefit.
I mean, I think in certain instances, as you know, I mean, I expressed it to the council with the cut that was already made in the building department. I think that's going to hurt us. It's going to make it, we will be slower to respond to building permits in a time when we're kind of having a boom here. So that's not good. Those cuts, they have real implications, sure.
Right. So
Either
if we
slow
do-
down our productivity or our ability to respond to resident needs, or they just hamper our ability to do what needs to be done.
Absolutely. So what I'm getting at is, if we do these cuts and these people are already doing double duty, that we can't hear complaints that it's taking too long for somebody to do something within the town, is really where I'm going. So if we do make those cuts, do people, do you want this or do you want this, right? What do you want? Because you're going to pay for it in other ways. It's going to be paid for, is where really what we're saying. So honestly, I don't think cutting employees, if we have 84 full-time employees and they're already doing double duty, I don't think cutting employees, full-time employees, is really where to go. So that's my 2 cents.
We're just exploring all possibilities.
Absolutely, I get it, but to cut our nose off to spite our face isn't something that we should do.
So, okay. So the last thing is Anthony had handed out because one of the things was debt service, which on the budget, there's nothing we can do on debt service. But just so that people understand, before projects are approved, we do go through this. We get the numbers, the projected numbers of what the project, what we would have to bond for, how we bond for it, an estimated cost on it. And so some of the projects we have right now, they are not fully bonded yet. And we knew going into this process for the high school and the police department and NBIS, because that was $10 million on that project, and communications also, is we already had a map out of what our debt service would look like, and we knew that it was going to drop off in 2026. So the idea is on these projects, when you look at them, you don't want to have large spikes in your debt service. You want to try and keep it even, somewhat even. So you will have dips and, it'll go up and down, but you don't want the really huge spikes up. And so I asked Anthony to do a schedule for us as to where we are right now and what's projected based on bonding. So that is what he handed out. And can you just explain
the
this?
shaded columns to the right, there's about $8.7 million left to bond. 4.755 is the remaining piece of NBHS. 3.950 remaining piece from the police department. I worked with Mark Chapman, our financial advisor, and he put together some numbers. So the shaded areas are, assuming it's about a 4% interest rate. Again, who knows what the market's going to be in August, but that's the projection that we thought comfortable with now. So you'll see this year's debt service at the far right is about $6.3 million. Next year it's going to go to 6.873, and then was that 873 or
No,
673? And then 698, and then after that it comes down 6196, 63. So you got a couple more years of serious pain, and then 1 year of a little bit of repo, and then back to 6.3 neighborhood, 6.2.
So, like on your home mortgage, you can pay down
Right.
on it. Can you do that on bonds?
We have refinanced over the years. It depends on the interest rates. This environment is not conducive to that, but if you turn back the clock 7 to 10 years ago, we refinanced all our outstanding debt.
Right, but in order to do that, we have to refinance. You can't just say,
You can't
oh,
just say,
I have
you can't
$500,000 left this year, so let's just
No.
pay down debt.
No, it's,
You have to refinance the bonds in
Right.
order to do that.
right.
Which costs money when you
Right.
refinance, but hopefully you do it when the interest rates are down enough.
And it's enough that
it-
you cover the cost and then some. At the end, you're
Correct.
saving money at the end of the day.
Right, so you can't just
Prepay.
pay down the debt.
It's like a variable mortgage, right?
Yeah, there's no prepayments. It's,
Yeah.
There's no reason.
I mean, I know, because that has been suggested, that we should just pay down the debt if we have extra money, not borrow anything and pay down early, but the only way you can do that is if you refinance, and the market conditions have to be conducive to
right,
do
the
that.
rates are not in our favor now.
Right. Okay. All right. So do you anticipate in 2025 that we bond the rest of these projects?
Yeah, you don't want to incur more interest costs.
Okay, so
Yeah,
just,
we're-
so it'll be
stop the clock. Right,
they'll be fully bonded at
Right.
that point in time on there.
right. And then
Okay.
the remaining question that we talked about is working with Rusty to see what's outstanding on high school specifically before the state audits everything else. Is there going to be any costs that we're going to be potentially,
Yeah, that aren't part of the project.
part of the project,
So they-
aren't reimbursable? We're going
Right.
to cover those internally, but I think he's working on getting a list together for us.
Okay. All right. So does anyone else have any other questions in regards to the budget?
I just want to clarify something, to go back to Council Pelley, the police contract spells out what we can add on for admin costs. It's pension, workers' comp, and FICA Medicare.
Okay.
71%.
It's hot.
So we're already up there. Gotcha.
Yes, and actually that money does go into a separate account?
Yeah, extra
Correct.
duty fund, yep.
Yeah. And the same thing with the cars, right? Didn't we have a fund
We have a
for?
police vehicle use fund, right, that you've used to buy cars out of.
Correct, but
So,
we've used that
pays for
fund
themselves.
a lot in recent years, and there's probably not a lot of money left in
At
that.
no cost to the taxpayers, we've purchased 5 patrol vehicles for the town.
Right,
That's off the backs of the officers working on the road jobs.
okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so the next item is finalization of the special meeting for budget action. So in order to have enough time for the residents to know what we were doing on the budget and taking action, I was in conference with the town manager, so we just set the date so that we could get everything firmed up. And it is next Tuesday, May 27th at 6:30, and it will be held at North Branford High School in the cafeteria. So they have a larger space there in anticipation of more, knowing that that's going to be where budget cuts are made, where more residents can come out. And that's also in our discussions why we set up the separate email address that they can put their comments in and stuff. So do we need a motion to approve this, or it's already set and we just?
It's already set, you have the power to
Yeah.
call it.
Okay.
Yep.
Yep. So it's just, the meeting will be next Tuesday at 6:30 in the high school cafeteria. And that has all been confirmed with the school system as far as availability. All right, so let's move on to item C, disposition of certain town properties. And this is 672 Totucket Road. This was the one parcel out of the 5 parcels that came before us. This is the one parcel that is a building lot. And the town assessor has done an assessment, appraisal of this property, and it's in our packet. We've gone over this. We have discussed this prior, and our discussion at that time was that if we're selling this property, that we would just do sealed bids and set a minimum price on it. And then once we agree on that, then the town manager will take care of getting it out there and specifying and putting everything else. So based on the information that the assessor has here, I think it's easy. My personal opinion is to do a sealed bid on it and just let who's ever doing an auction. I think there's more cost involved in.
Yeah, you'd have to get a realtor the other way, and
Yeah.
The town attorney would like to.
I'm going to
see.
suggest that if you want, we can go into executive session to discuss, because discussion of the price, if it can affect the sale, you may want to do that in executive session if you're going to have
Okay.
a conversation. Just a suggestion.
That's a great suggestion. Okay. So the other piece of property that, and we are working on some of the other pieces. They're small pieces, and the town manager has been working with the landowners on each side of them to come up with a price. And then once that's done, then the town attorney will draw paperwork, and that'll come before us when that's all set. And the one large piece that's left is the old town hall site, 1599 Foxton Road. And we have discussed this. We kind of put it on hold during budget season. It will come back to us next month, as far as we just have to determine what we want, how we want to do it, what we want to put in the RFP when we put it out to bid for developers, if we want any restrictions on it, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But just so the public knows, is that we are selling that piece of property for development. But we do have some say as far as what we would like there. The type of structure, mixed use, whatever, we can come up with those parameters on there. So it is moving, that is moving forward also on there. So since we have an executive session tonight, can we talk about this one, Brian, in executive session?
What I would do is, perhaps you just add to your agenda discussing.
Amend the amendment to,
Executive session.
No action on this.
Can I do that now?
We'll come back to it.
this portion?
Yeah, you want to?
Yeah, I'll amend it stipulated to discuss the land use and sale of 1299?
672.
Of 672.
I'm sorry, 672.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, the motion has been made to amend the agenda to add to executive session the disposition of 672 Totucket Road. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Next item is approval of job description change for program coordinator, and this is for the Park and Rec Department. So this is an existing position that we have right now?
Correct. This was the position that was vacated when Sarah Brown was elevated to the assistant director.
Right.
So whenever a position is vacated, before we fill it, we touch base with the department heads and see if they would like to make any changes. This job description hasn't been updated in quite some time, and the director said that the job description wasn't very indicative of the duties that the position was actually fulfilling. And so worked with the director and assistant director and came up with what's before you. Ran it by the union. They have no issues with it. So presenting it to you for approval.
Okay, so on here, because we have one person that's part-time and the position that was vacated is full-time, but the same job description goes
Correct.
for both positions. Okay. All right. So there is a suggested motion in our packet.
Make a motion that the town council of Branford adopt the job description as presented.
Second?
Motion has been made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Diamond. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay, next item is Master Municipal Agreement for Right-of-Way.
This item is before you. That is pretty much pro forma. It's the renewal of our agreement with the Department of Transportation for the MMA ROW that we have with DOT. Town attorneys reviewed it. It's recommended for passage for you tonight.
Okay, there is a motion on page 89 of our packet.
I have it.
Okay.
I'll read it. I won't read the typo because
Yeah.
it says Michael Dowers.
I did that myself, too. I'm totally responsible.
So we'll go with that. Michael Downs, town manager, is hereby authorized to sign the agreement entitled Master Municipal Agreement for Rights-of-Way Projects.
There a second?
Second.
Motion has been made by Councilor Palladino, seconded by Deputy Mayor McMillan. Any discussion?
Yeah, Mike, explain what that is again?
Yeah.
So for the town to enter into projects with DOT, it allows the town to participate in the right-of-way projects that are funded through them, including the lot SIP program that we use. So that's what it's basically for when we do that.
Okay, thanks.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Okay, next item is a brief review of the charter revision process. We covered this last month. So it's basically like timelines. So let me just see what's here in our. It's a long master. Okay, this. Okay, so it starts on page 126 of our packet. And I know Lisa Valenti here, the town clerk, has, in our packet, is information in regards to how the town charter works and time frame, and the clock doesn't start ticking until when here?
Well, there's different clocks that start ticking as soon as you start. Once you appoint, there's so many months to do things, and then you have to, if you have any idea that you're gonna do this for this November's election.
No, it's not for
I
the,
was gonna caution you, that's a very aggressive.
yeah, no, we discussed that at previous meetings,
Right.
that it would be too much of a tight timeline
Correct.
for this November's election. And so then we have the next one would be next November, the November 20th.
Unless you want a special election, but I would not recommend you do that. I'd recommend you do a November election.
Right, because in a special election, you need 15% to come out to vote, but the added part of that 15% is they have to vote yes for whatever the proposed changes are.
Right.
Not just 15% to come out to vote, which is a harder mandate to get to than just 15% of the votes.
Correct.
On there. So
Can I ask a question?
you can,
Are we required to change the charter in any way, shape, or form?
You are not.
no.
There's no timeline, nothing?
There's no periodic review, nothing. You can do it if and when you see fit.
It's up
Or
to
when
the council
public
to
petitions
decide.
you to do that.
So we're not being petitioned, or, so
We-
is
we
there a
have
reason
not.
why we're even looking at this?
The voice of the
Sorry.
people.
It came up, I know, a lot online on the Facebook before the budget referendum vote.
Mhm.
People complaining, oh, it's not fair, we never get 15% anyway, it needs to be changed. Why don't we do a charter revision? And I think that's what
Well,
we
we
first
got
started looking
20%,
at.
the voters came out and we got 20%. So why do we need to have I
Wait.
understand that they were talking about it, but as long as the
Wait,
people come out and
It's-
vote.
It's a council decision. It definitely is a council decision, and a lot goes into it. It's not just
Right.
saying, let's do charter,
Yeah.
because you have to, you have to, what do you want? What are you looking to accomplish if you do charter revision? So that's a discussion that we would need to have, and it's, if you open up the charter, even though you say, let's just look at A and
You're open
B,
up for everything.
everything is open.
Vendor's box is open, but you have to have an idea of why you're doing it.
Right, that's what I'm questioning.
Right.
And I get it, that the people are requesting that, but we just had a vote of an election, and 20% of the people came out and voted. So,
Right,
Just-
so I think what you were just going through is, what is charter revision and how does it, how does
We're
it
not discussing
function? How
it.
does
If
it
we
work?
want to do it, what do we have to do?
Right, right, that's.
Right. And it wouldn't, even if we started tonight, if we were prepared to do that,
Available till November, yeah.
it wouldn't
No,
take,
we wouldn't make November.
we wouldn't make this November, so
Simply wait
next
till
year's,
Next year if we want to do it.
next year's budget referendum would still be the way it is today. Because the change would not be in effect for next year on there. So we just wanted to get the information out there, this is what it is, so. Okay, next is East Haven Animal Control Contract Revision.
Yes, Madam Mayor, as I mentioned earlier and as has been discussed, you'll remember that when we entered into the agreement with East Haven to take over our animal control services, at that time, both East Haven and we were unsure of the numbers that Branford had presented. And you might recall, it took a long time for them to even produce the numbers. Based on our mutual lack of certainty onto those numbers, we baked into the contract a review period after we would get the numbers in and see what it actually looked like when they were serving our town. And it did turn out that they are responding to fewer calls than was anticipated. So I met with Mayor Carfora, took our team over there and met with theirs, and they agreed to reduce our current contract. You may recall that we started off at $135,000 with a 4% increments after that. We had budgeted this year for $146,000 for animal control. Under the new agreement, we'll be paying $130,000 flat fee for this coming fiscal year and the fiscal year after that. There will be no increase for the following fiscal year, and this is a 2-year agreement which would take effect at the beginning of this coming fiscal year, 25-26, and last for 2 years, at which point we would renegotiate.
Oh, it's good that they held no increase in there, and the positive reviews from Councilor Miller is
And yeah, I
great.
would definitely want to add too that, and I was very sure to note that, Emily Higgins and her whole team over there have been phenomenal. Every dealing that we have had with them has been top-notch. I think they're extremely professional, capable. They've served us very well, and I think the police department backs that up in their interactions with them.
Okay, so there is a suggested motion on page 128.
And my name is spelled right in this one.
That the North Branford Town Council authorizes Town Manager Michael P. Downs to sign the updated animal control agreement between the town of North Branford and the town of East Haven, to take effect July 1, 2025.
Second.
The motion has been made by Counselor Diamond, second by Counselor Miller. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Next item is award of RFP 925015, Twin Lakes Professional Engineering, LOTSA Project LO 98-0001.
So you have a memo in your packets from Chris Holden. We received 7 bids for the project. 2 of them were above what was budgeted. We reviewed all of the proposals, Dan Celentano, Fran Marola, Chris Holden, and I. 2, we weren't satisfied with their qualifications. They didn't cite any experience with lots of projects. And then out of the remaining 3 that were within budget range, Luke's was selected as, the most qualified and lowest cost.
Okay, so this is the whole Twin Lakes Road project.
Yeah,
The
engineer.
design in that road is being completely redone, and the majority of the cost of this project is by state funding, correct? Our contribution, or our portion, is to pay for the engineer. On it. Okay, so there is a suggested motion on page 135,
136.
or 130, no, 135 on my book here. Okay.
Be it hereby resolved, be it hereby resolved that the North River Town Council, based on the recommendation of the Finance Committee, or to RFP.
No, that's
that's
wrong.
that's why it's not coming up.
That's the next one.
Put your glasses on.
Yeah, seriously. Oh, then I don't have it here. 'cause it
I
goes
don't
right to the
have
glasses.
There isn't one.
There is not one there.
Yes, there is.
It's the last paragraph.
It doesn't say
Oh.
suggested motion.
Okay, that's
It's
why.
not indicated.
There we
Yeah, it
are.
says
It's-
It says in the
yeah,
paragraph.
Yeah.
Okay. My apologies. That the Town Council of North Branford authorizes the town manager to negotiate and execute an agreement with Lucas Consulting Engineers LLC located in Meriden, Connecticut for professional engineer and associated services related to Twin Lakes Road LOSIP project L098-001 with the proposed project cost of $159,400 and rates presented to, in the RFP in the consultation with the Town Council.
Second.
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Abelson. Any other discussion?
This is from 139 to Route 80, all the way?
It's Twin Lakes Road.
I know they're not using the
Yeah.
same form.
Oh, it's 80 down to the rotary.
Okay. Where the road used to be?
So Queech Road?
Okay.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Next is award of RFP number 926013 to Munistat Service Incorporated for bond advisor. This is the one. Jeff.
At the suggestion of the council, we went out and did an RFP for our bond advisor. We had 2 responses, our current vendor, Munistat, and Phoenix Advisors. There are 2 players in this arena in the state. The current vendor came in actually at a lower cost than what he's charging us currently. So the price of $20,000, it was $25,000 when we did the bond and note sale last August. So he came in with a sharper pencil down to $20,000 this year.
Be hereby resolved that the North River Town Council, based on the recommendation of the Finance Committee, awards RFP 926013 to Municipal Services, Inc. at the price per bond and note sale of $20,000.
Second.
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Diamond. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Next is Poco Festival 2025 request to hold special event with beer and wine. So there is a... Is there a-
So we're back to just beer and wine now.
Yes, we have
Wasn't
it,
there-
we,
wasn't
well,
there like drinks last time? or-
last year there was pre-mixed margaritas. But we have a different vendor that is doing the beer and wine.
So that's what we're going with, right? Just beer and wine.
Yes, and if there's any changes in that, or if there's some deviations, it needs the approval of the police department on there. Because last year we did sangria, but the police department covered sangria in the idea of wine on there. So it just, as part of,
All right.
oh, here it is.
All right, so suggested motion is for the town council to permit the sale of beer and wine at the 2025 Potato and Corn Festival.
Second. Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Abelson. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained? Motion carries. Next is appropriation transfers.
You have two small transfers in front of you, both from the police department. You may recall that the custodial services at the police department were budgeted in this 24-25 year as a contractual basis, and a decision was made to hire a part-time employee. So we're moving the money from the other contractual account to the part-time account to cover the gentleman's wages. The second one is to move some overtime from the dispatcher's overtime to the police department overtime, police officer overtime.
Okay. Do I have a motion?
Resolved that the North Branford Town Council hereby approves the following appropriation transfers as recommended by the town manager and the treasurer finance director.
Second.
Motion was made by Deputy Mayor McMillan, seconded by Councilor Diamond. Any further discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstained?
I abstain.
Motion carries. I just have a request when we have motions like this that are separate from our packet. Can we include these in the minutes, the actual motion like that? Because when you go back to look in the minutes, it doesn't, you don't know what it was, it just says what it, but you don't have the detail.
Right.
Yeah.
But if you
Okay.
could just include this and label it as exhibit whatever,
Yeah.
it makes it much easier when you have to look something up.
Financial report too, that should be, at least it should be included as backup to the minutes.
Yes, yeah.
Of course.
Yep. Okay, so the next is financial report.
This report for the end of April, again, things remained positive in North Branford. The ones we typically focus on, tax collections, 100%, 100.6% of budget, 99.4% last year, so that's a good thing. Overall revenue, 98.4% of budget, compared to 97.5, another good thing. The expense side of the house on the bottom of the page, just about running on par with last year, 77.9, 77.2. We will have transfers coming for you in June to cover some of the longstanding issues with the insurance and other accounts, technology that have been overexpended for most of the year.
Okay. Approval of tax refund is the next agenda item.
I make the motion that we give a refund to Ian Juarez and Erica Juarez in the amount of $4,867.23 as a refund.
Motion was made by Councilor Diamond, seconded by Councilor Palladino. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Abstain? Motion carries. Let's see. Oh, we're on citizens' statements and petitions.
Annette Scatino, 63 Glenwood Road. So I just have a couple of questions. With the animal shelter, how many calls did you say that we were getting, that they were getting from the town of North Branford
When,
on an annual basis?
I don't know, I'd have to look at the data.
Do you have a monthly basis?
I have the reports, but I'd have to go through them.
Okay, because the 130,000 comes out to be about $2,500 a week. Do you think we use that much a week?
I think it's a pretty good arrangement, actually, yeah, considering what we have to have in place. State mandates that we have to have something here. This is a significant savings, not only, again, repeated, but we've also saved money from the transfer from when we were with Branford.
Okay. I'm just curious if we use that much, that we have to lock ourselves into 130,000 for 2 years. You said our calls are significantly lower than what we expected.
They're lower than what was reported out of Branford.
Okay, so I'm just curious as to what those numbers are, to see if it justifies the $2,500 a month, if that could be renegotiated, if the calls are significantly lower.
It was just renegotiated.
That was just renegotiated. That was the point of this function.
Okay.
It was renegotiated because so when we changed over from Branford to East Haven, purpose was because there was a higher expense and we were going to be asked to take on capital improvements, which, on the building. So we said, let's make this more affordable to North Branford. We went to East Haven. We didn't have a basis for what it was going to look like, so we had to take the numbers that we were given from Branford. East Haven was so important to help us and say, okay, we're going to take the first year, we're going to charge you X amount, which is a lower rate, and we're going to take a snapshot and see, well, where are you, what's appropriate? Because if we're charging at this rate and off of this amount of volume, that's appropriate. But if you have lower volume, you can renegotiate, well, actually, it'll cost. That's very well what happened.
Okay, I just want to make sure that the $2,500 a week is a lot of money.
Yeah, it's not cheap, but it's
Just to make sure that we're actually using the services enough to justify that amount of money.
yeah.
Okay.
What is Branford charging us? What was the number for Branford?
We're in the 170s.
160, 70 something was the last one. I think they were willing to renegotiate with us, but they didn't come down anywhere
So we
near.
were going to pay
They waived the capital.
$170,000 a year for
Right.
Branford. And now we're down to $130,000 for East Haven.
I'm not saying it's not a good price, I'm just saying,
Just wanted a general idea.
just do we have that much activity
A lot
with
of
it?
times, what
You know, I'm
happens with
not-
the animal control, they get called directly, so we wouldn't know that unless we asked them anyways.
Right, and they have
Your question is
call
good.
reports that
They're
come
asking
out.
for activity.
Yeah.
You're asking if we have
Yeah.
that much activity to justify. We didn't. That's why we negotiated down to the appropriate level to justify the cost.
Okay,
If we kept on paying the cost we had, we wouldn't justify that expense. That's why they kept to their word.
Okay.
And they renegotiated to a level that was appropriate for the amount of volume.
okay,
That's the
just
word.
want to make sure that,
Of
you
course,
know.
that's a
yeah.
fair question, but that's exactly.
Yeah,
what
I
we're
mean,
doing.
and then this is like open question,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
open season here.
Yeah, Ms.
Um,
Scatino, the questions you're asking, we literally took this on strong a couple of years ago, the exact same question you're asking, we asked, and we started figuring out, and the numbers were really high, what we were paying.
Okay.
It was over $500 like a call. I don't know the
Right.
exact numbers, but it was actually surprising how high it was. So exactly what you're concerned about, we were concerned about, and we addressed it, saved money, and Mike just worked out another
Better deal.
contract that actually went down even more, so we're
Right,
kind of.
and I appreciate your effort and your work.
And we're also
I'm
doing
just-
capital
Yeah.
improvements for the Cosgrove Animal Shelter.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they were probably going to be looking for more as time went on. Whereas with East Haven,
Right.
this is strictly a service agreement. Their truck breaks down, the pipe bursts or whatever, that's on them. We're just
Right.
contracting their service.
Right, and that's good for us.
And another thing I would add too about that too, if we remember back when that was going on, that, we had people coming here talking about, they were testifying, trying to keep us with Cosgrove. We're talking about, great work they had done in Derby Another place was because they were doing regional work. They were trying to make themselves this preeminent regional shelter.
Gotcha.
And a lot of us felt, and certainly when I was on the council, I felt that they were trying to do this kind of on our back. And so that's why we felt that the price was a little bit large compared to what, we wanted service for animal control here. We didn't, we weren't interested in partnering with that or investing in capital that's not even ours. The facility's not even in our town. They're asking us to foot the bill for large capital expenses, so that was part of it.
Okay. My next question, how many hours does an employee have to work to get benefits in the town?
Over 19 hours, I believe.
Okay,
is it
so we
part-time?
have, so Tom had mentioned 100, the number that you got was 113 people or something?
Wait a minute.
Have all the right numbers now.
So Anthony said that the number is actually a true 84 that are full-time.
84 full-time.
So the rest of that equaling 113 are part-time. Are those part-time people under 19 hours?
Yes, they're not receiving.
So they are, so they're not receiving benefits?
Some are.
Some are, not all.
There are some over.
Some are, some aren't.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that might be something to look into, to be able to save.
Sure.
If they're supposed to be truly part-time, why would we be paying benefits for them?
Sure.
Do you know how much we pay for the, in lieu of insurance? How many people select that have selected that option, and how much we're paying for that? I think at one meeting, maybe it was said we give them 30% of the amount that the town would pay for them to be on the health insurance?
It's 30% of
What?
so it's, you have the cost of the insurance for the month, less what their premium share is.
Right.
So the remaining balance is the 30%.
Okay.
That they get on it.
So do we have an idea of how many people are actually
Yep.
taking that, and how much we're paying for that?
In the two unions, clerical and police that do that, we have 7 police officers, 6 clerical, and then 4 admins.
Do you know what
That is negotiated amongst the union.
I know, it's a
So-
union contract.
Right, those 2 contracts are up in 27 and 28 respectively.
Okay, so you have another ways to go with that. Okay. I was just curious as to, is it 25 people or is it 2 people? I wasn't really sure. And as far as the fire hydrants, with Lake, I've been in town for 59 years. So we call it Lake Gaylord. That's how we knew it from way back when. How much do we get? Do we get a discount from them for them being in our town, from the Regional Water Authority, to use our Lake Gaylord? Like, that we
It's
can
an offset, but it's not a discount per se.
like, should we be
And it's not
pushing?
even our lake, because they built it, it's man-made, it was built in 1928.
Okay.
They dammed up and flooded a portion of town after they bought the property, so it wasn't like they came in and there was a lake there and they took it.
So how does the tax work on that?
There is no tax, they pay.
They don't pay any tax to our
pilot.
town.
We get pilot money,
What does that mean?
payment in lieu of taxes. And it was what I was mentioning earlier that I don't think is a sufficient amount, but.
So what's payment in lieu of taxes? Like, they only pay us an amount per year?
Yeah, they pay us a set scale amount.
Is it state or federal?
It's a
State that is given to municipalities that have that a portion of their land that has been taken up by a regional.
Yeah, their property is tax exempt. They don't have, they're like a
Utility.
not-for-profit, a hospital, a university, where they don't have to pay under the state law property taxes, and the state gives you a pilot payment in lieu of taxes.
Is there a way to
help the
renegotiate that?
municipality. It's, the state of Connecticut determines that number.
Gotcha.
It's never anywhere near the property, the money if a private individual owned the property.
So then can we negotiate getting better, like,
There's no negotiation.
even
No
better
negotiating.
rates for the
There's no one to
hydrants or
negotiate.
anything?
They're tax exempt. They're
Gotcha.
done with the lake. It's up
Yeah.
to the state to give us pilot money, back. And that's the state's determination.
Complained about this.
If and how much they're giving
Yeah.
us. We have no negotiation. We have no.
We
war
can't
on
go to
this
the
vote.
state and say, this is,
We want more money.
concern.
Every town wants more money from the state, because every
Yeah.
town gets pilot, basically.
Yeah.
In some form or another.
Okay.
It's a big chunk of non-taxable land.
Well, that's, what it kind of is not fair to us to,
I mean, I would say that, it's something to consider, maybe reaching out and writing a letter and seeing if there's something that's a concerned citizen. It has encumbered a great deal of our town for, over 100 years almost. And it's.
I mean, it's cutting into our taxes in our state. I mean, in our town.
You're not having public services. I know some towns that have universities with tens of thousands of people, buildings that need police, fire, ambulance, public works, and they're getting pilot money too, pennies on the dollar. So
Yeah.
you're lucky this is not really costing you anything to have a link,
Yeah.
Service-wise. It's really positive.
Our pilot payment last year was like $1.5 million from the water company, yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
real money.
Yeah. Okay. I think that was it. Thank you.
All right,
question.
I
thank
appreciate
you.
all your work.
Thank you.
That was good questions, actually.
Million and a half, how you think?
All right, are we ready to?
Are there any other citizen statements?
Based on their personal.
Okay,
I'll
so
make
now,
a motion to go into executive session to include finance director, town attorney, town manager, assistant town manager, public. Sorry, Jen, you're out.
no, I don't think, I think that's it. That's all we need here.
To discuss both payment in lieu of benefits
Yes,
and.
discuss payment in lieu of benefits and
Disposition of town.
disposition of town property.
Is there a second? Second. Motion's been made and seconded, all in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, in executive session.